And welcome to Sunday Night Baseball here on ESPN. The Detroit Tigers trying to complete a 3-game sweep of the Boston Red Sox here on a very nice night for a ball game at historic Fenway Park. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN is brought to you by Taco Bell. We've got some of the biggest names, some of the biggest bats in baseball in this game tonight, including back-to-back American League Most Valuable Player Miguel Cabrera and the 2013 World Series MVP in a Big Papi, David Ortiz. Hi, everybody, and welcome to Fenway. Dan Schulman, John Kruk. Glad you're with us tonight. Let's start with the Tigers, who just might be the best team in baseball right now. They've got so many things going for them right now, but let's start with the offense and as dangerous a 3-4 combo as there is in the sport.
Yeah, everyone knows that they added speed to their lineup this year with Rajai Davis, Ian Kinsler, but these two guys, Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez, are the guys who are going to carry him. And Miguel Cabrera, well, what do you say? He got off to what he calls a slow start, but he has since picked it up in his last 11 games. You saw the numbers, hitting balls to all fields, hitting the ball out of the ballpark, and if you try to pitch around him, well, now you got to deal with Victor Martinez. 390 batting average, and Dan, the most amazing thing, he has more home runs than strikeouts so far this year, which is unbelievable to me.
And they're not just a team that can hurt you with the long ball. As Crucky mentioned, they've got more speed. They're a more athletic team than they were a year ago. For more on that, let's go down to the field with Buster Olney.
Dan, on Saturday, the Detroit Tigers stole a base for the 36th time this year. The significance of that is it's one more than they had the entire 2013 season when they were dead last in the big leagues. As Crucky mentioned, Ian Kinsler, Rajai Davis has made a big difference with that. But from the beginning of spring training, new manager Brad Ausmus has told his players, I want you looking for opportunities. And they'll be doing that tonight, Dan.
All right, Buster, thank you. So they can hit, they can run. And by the way, they can pitch a little bit, too. They just might have the best rotation in all of baseball, including Anibal Sanchez coming off the DL tonight. And by the way, all he did was lead the American League in ERA in 2013. So if you haven't gathered yet, it's going to be a difficult night, theoretically, for the Boston Red Sox. And the Red Sox were the best offensive team in baseball a year ago, went on to win the World Series. They are anything but the best offensive team in baseball this year.
Yeah, it's been a struggle, and they have had a lot of problems with the leadoff position. They've had a lot of problems with the fifth position in the batting lineup, and John Farrell told us today, he said it's so difficult to find a figure a way to have a platoon situation hitting in the fifth spot. You see there's 7 different number 5 hitters, 5 different leadoff hitters. With Pedroia now entrenched in that leadoff spot, doing a great job at that leadoff spot, now it shortens their lineup because they don't have him hitting third, Ortiz fourth, and Napoli fifth. They're trying to find that fifth guy. Maybe Grady Sizemore tonight can be that guy for the Red Sox.
They averaged better than 5 runs per game last year, barely 4 runs per game so far this year. There are some Tiger fans in the house here at Fenway Park, and why not? Their team is hot, and they are looking for a sweep here at Fenway Park tonight. Also coming up this evening, we'll put the greatness of Miguel Cabrera's last 2 years into perspective, and as always, Barry will have his web gems for us later on tonight.
I just sprinted where I thought it would be. And once I got to that point close to the wall, and I was able to jump up, but it was a little behind me. My body was out of control, and once I hit the wall, it just flipped me over.
Swing and a high fly ball driven right center field. Hunter back, out of here, out of here. Grand slam, David Ortiz.
I think it's a cool picture. At least everybody's gonna know what my shoes look like.
And that they certainly did. There's Steve Horgan, the police officer who became quite a celebrity here in Boston, as being the guy with his arms extended cheering in the Boston bullpen after that David Ortiz grand slam. A 6-game ALCS won by the Red Sox over Torrey Hunter and the Detroit Tigers, and really the Ortiz grand slam, and then later in the series the Victorino grand slam. The Red Sox got the 2 big hits at the moments they needed them, and they went on to win the World Series.
Yeah, and that's what world champions do. They can be beaten by a team like they were by the Detroit Tigers, but they came up with the clutch hits to win those 4 games against the Detroit Tigers and advance to the World Series. And of course, we all know they won it, but it was an amazing thing to watch how dominant the Tigers pitching was, and a couple mistakes cost them a chance to play in the World Series.
Let's show you now the starting lineup for the Tigers, brought to you by Taco Bell as they go for the sweep tonight here in Boston. This is a very good offensive team, averaging 4.8 runs per game. That is 5th best in the American League, and they have won 10 straight on the road this year, and they have the best record in all of baseball at 26-12. This is the best start through 38 games the Tigers have had since that great season in 1984. Remember, they won 35 of their first 40 that year and went on to win the World Series. The Red Sox juggled their rotation, didn't want a left-hander, Felix Doubront, facing the Tigers tonight, so they have Jake Peavy coming off actually a rough outing his last time out.
Yeah, real rough outing for Jake Peavy, and kind of been a little inconsistent so far this season, but yeah, he has his work cut out for him because it doesn't matter who Miguel Cabrera hits off of, and of course Victor Martinez, being a left or switch hitter, hitting left-handed his strong side.
Peavy to face Kinsler, Hunter, and Cabrera. Here in the first inning, Sizemore, Bradley, and Victorino left to right in the outfield for the Red Sox. Brock Holt, Xander Bogaerts, Dustin Pedroia, Mike Napoli on the infield. A.J. Pierzynski catching Peavy. And Scott Berry is our home plate umpire tonight here at Fenway. And a strike taken by Kinsler, a newcomer to the Tigers this year, acquired for Prince Fielder in the offseason. Fielder scuffling early and now has been out the last couple of days with a neck problem. And Kinsler has given the Tigers an element along with Rajai Davis they didn't really have last year, and that's some speed.
Yeah, and much needed speed, and speed on the defensive side too. They're on a significantly better defensive team, but they are better than they were last year.
And a breaking ball hit high and deep to left field. It's going to be high off the monster. Kinsler with a big turn puts the brakes on, and it's a long Fenway single to get it started here for the Tigers.
A little bit, not bad though. Fucking running.
Well, this is another element that Ian Kinsler can bring to your team, is some pop from that leadoff position. That's just a hanging changeup, breaking ball, whatever it was. It didn't do a whole lot. Well, you see the grip there. It's a breaking ball, and it just spun right in the center of the plate. And I think Kinsler thought he got this one, Dan, because he wasn't exactly hustling it out of the box on his initial, after he saw the ball go. But again, another quick start for the Detroit Tigers, and now here comes trouble in the next few guys.
Tigers winning 1-0 on Friday, 6-1 last night. A base hit for Kinsler. He's got 5 steals on the season, and the batter was Torrey Hunter. Hunter still getting it done, hitting .301 on the season. Hitting .341 his last 22 games, and has had a lot of success against Jake Peavy.
Look at how wet that is underneath Ian Kinsler's feet. You think one team runs and the other doesn't? The home team, they can do what they want with the field.
So it is true what they say. Teams will water down an infield to their advantage.
And they should.
Yep.
And they should.
Runner goes. Pitch swung on, roller right up the middle, and it pays off for the Red Sox as they turn the double play. One of those situations where you probably do the right thing, but it backfires if if the runner's not going, it's a base hit and probably first and third.
Yeah, and that's not a hit-and-run situation. That's a situation where Kinsler's running, and Torrey Hunter feels like if I get a pitch, I'm going to hit. But, you know, that's just bad luck. I mean, he hit it right where you're supposed to hit that pitch, is up the middle, and he did. And, of course, little Pedroia over there making the plays always. It's one thing that hasn't left this Red Sox. It's the consistency of his defense. What a great second baseman.
So a 4-3 double play, just like that. 2 outs, nobody on. And here's the greatest hitter in the game today, Miguel Cabrera.
How would you like to come up to bat and say, you're the greatest hitter in the world?
And it may not even be even close.
There's yeah. Yep. Yeah, we're trying to figure out who's second.
3 straight batting titles, 2 straight MVPs, a triple crown 2 years ago. May have had a better season last year than he did when he won the triple crown. And doing it all in a ballpark that's pretty friendly to pitchers.
Yes, and you know, when you look at his numbers and you look at former Red Sox great Wade Boggs and Tony Gwynn, the 340s, 350 batting average those guys put up, he's doing it with an unbelievable amount of power to go with it. It's just incredible. And
it's not like he boosts that batting average with a lot of infield hits.
Yeah, he doesn't. He's not going to get many. No. You know, he might get a rollover grounder at third because the third baseman's playing so deep, but other than that, they're on their own.
You know, you take a look again at how incredible the numbers were. You just saw them briefly. There they are. Look at the consistency in the batting average, the power, the production over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and we keep talking about, you know, he got off to a slow start. He's got 37 RBIs. That's
second in the league.
Yeah, that's not too slow.
Is it strength? Is it hand-eye coordination? Is it intelligence? What is it that separates?
All of those things. His intelligence in the batter's. I remember when he first came up with the Florida Marlins then. And Ozzie Guillen was their third base coach, and I went down to see Ozzie, and I said, tell me about this kid. He said, he will be the greatest hitter in baseball in a few years. I said, come on. He said, I'm telling you, the kid can do everything in a batter's box.
Driven to right center field. And Cabrera better get going. He's safe at second on a very close play.
I wonder if John Farrell might come out and take a look at this one. Well, looky there. It's a high tag by Bogaerts. You wonder if he got him before. I don't even know if he got him. I don't think he tagged him.
Yeah. And you didn't see Bogaerts, at least I didn't see Bogaerts motion to Farrell right away and say, hey, you got to review this one.
Yeah, you wonder if we can show that again. You know, why wouldn't Bogaerts wait for that ball to get to the base? Why would he run out in front of the base to get it and have to reach back to tag him? And that's when you should be straddling the base and waiting for the tag and drop it on him.
So it's a double for Miguel Cabrera. The Red Sox opt not to ask for a review. That double play looks really big right now.
How hard was that ball hit? Oh, my goodness.
And here's another tough out and an extremely underrated hitter, I think, around baseball, and Victor Martinez, leading the American League in batting, more home runs than strikeouts so far this year.
I've had people ask me, Dan, why don't they just walk Miguel Cabrera when he comes up? And I said, because if you do, you make him the MVP. Victor Martinez, he's that good a hitter.
Yeah. Now, do they even mess with Victor Martinez, though, here? Don Kelly is on deck. He's getting a start tonight at third base. He's batting fifth. Will Martinez get anything to hit?
He's going to have to be very careful. And that first pitch is an indicator that they're not going to try to give him anything to hit.
Curveball for a strike.
Well, heading to count 1-0. Why not spin one up there and see if you can get a strike? If not, it's down out of the zone away, and you don't have to worry about Victor Martinez hitting that pitch out of the ballpark.
Brad Austin was talking to us before the game, the manager of the Tigers, about Victor Martinez, saying he never gives a pitch away. He has never seen a hitter who is locked in, as focused, as consistently from pitch to pitch as Victor Martinez. And he said Victor's a great guy, but from the moment he leaves the dugout, goes to the on-deck circle and then to the plate, and when he comes back, if he hasn't had a good at-bat, Even his own manager says you don't mess with him.
No, stay away from him.
First-year manager of the Tigers, Brad Ausmus. Boy, he looks like he's awfully comfortable. Kind of has the feel like he's been in the seat for years, doesn't he?
Well, you know, we can talk about their offense all we want. When you're trotting those 5 starters out there every day, yeah, it's pretty enjoyable.
High fly ball to left, but it is playable. Grady Sizemore makes the catch, and Peavy wasn't fooling him, but he gets out of it without giving up any runs. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell Breakfast. Wake up, live Mas. And in part by Scott's, the official lawn care company of Major League Baseball. And the new 2014 Scion FRS. It makes everything epic. So the Tigers threaten but don't score in the top of the first. And here come the Red Sox in the bottom of the first. Dustin Pedroia, their leadoff hitter, as we check out the Red Sox lineup now, presented by Taco Bell. Boston scoring just over 4 runs per game, way down from their numbers a year ago, and they have just 2, count them, 2 extra base hits total in their last 3 games. Right now, David Ortiz, you can say, is hitting great. Had back-to-back 2 home run games this week. I don't know that you can say that anybody else in the lineup is really clicking on all cylinders. Pedroia is hitting a lot of doubles. Of course, Brock Holt has just come up from the minors. Middlebrooks is on the DL. But I don't know that anybody else is really delivering like they did a year ago for the Boston Red Sox.
Well, and this is the key to me. Dustin Pedroia, you would love to see him hitting third. That way Ortiz can hit fourth and Napoli fifth. But out of necessity, he has to be the leadoff guy.
And a bouncer to third, a leaping stop by Kelly, and he'll make the play. Kelly, an extremely versatile defender, plays 5 or 6 different spots and doing a nice job for the Tigers this year. On the mound tonight for Detroit, right-hander Anibal Sanchez, just back off the DL, had a blister on his finger, missed about 3 weeks, and probably on about an 80-pitch limit tonight.
Yeah, 80 pitch. They're going to try to limit him, but you know, with the way Brad Ausmus described the scene of that blister when he went out to check him a few starts ago is kind of gory,
yeah,
really.
Yeah, cover your eyes kind of stuff.
Yeah, we don't want to see this, but let's hope it gets better soon.
Here's Victorino. Victorino back from the hamstring problem, then missed some time, a couple of days with a left knee problem, so he hasn't played a whole lot this year. He is still, he's just batting right-handed. He's not a switch hitter anymore, batting right-handed against righties as he fouls it back into our booth. And fortunately, Kristen Gorman sitting just to our right. She was fortunately it bounced just a foot or so to the right of her. There's Kristen.
Yeah,
got to watch the game, Kristen.
You see that?
Got to look down at the field.
See the guy to her left bailed underneath the table.
Well, Pasquarelli's no use. He's no help in that kind of a situation.
Chivalry is dead in this booth.
Wow. You guys okay? Had it all the time, huh? What's that? Your circle change? Circle change. Thanks. Fortunately, it was on their side. We didn't have to make a play. But Kristen, you got to watch the game. She said she almost had it.
She had a better chance than Peter.
And a soft liner to second, caught by Kinsler. 2 down. It is not often you get a foul ball up this high in this ballpark. We're a ways up.
I was just thinking that before the game, how high we are. I said, there's no way we're going to get anything hit up here because we are directly behind home plate.
Yep.
But,
where are we? There we are. See?
Yeah, and that's it's just disappointing in Peter Pasquarelli, to say the least, that he had no desire to jump in front of that baseball headed up here right at Kristen.
It's not surprising, but it's disappointing.
Yeah, I guess we could expect it, sure.
2 down, nobody on for David Ortiz on a 10-game hitting streak. 19 for 40 in those 10 games. And as usual, the shift is on. As it is almost every single time that he comes to the plate. So they've got Kelly, the third baseman, out in shallow right field. Different teams do it different ways. Brad Ausmus believes 2 things. One, he wants to keep his middle infielders where they're comfortable. He's only displacing 1 fielder here, and that's Kelly. And also, generally, your shortstop is your best athlete on the infield, so he's got the most room to cover, being the only guy on the left side of the diamond.
Don Kelly's used to playing the outfield. Like you said, he's a great utility man. And, this is basically where you would play in the bottom of the 9th in a tie game with a runner on third, less than 2 outs. Play shallow and hope you can throw him out at home.
Ortiz will draw the walk. Not saying it was an intentional walk, but why let that guy beat you? Make somebody else beat you.
Yeah, well, Sanchez didn't seem too. Like he had that desire to throw one over the center of the plate once he got behind on him. He tried to hit the outside corner a couple times and missed, and he said, well, let me just go out a little further, maybe he'll chase. But David Ortiz been around way too long to know that they're not going to give me anything to hit, so I'm not going to chase and get myself out.
So now here's Napoli.
Napoli could hit one up here, I think.
And maybe he can hit one up on the roof and right on out of the ballpark over the first base side. Kristen, watch the game. This guy can reach us.
You like the aggressiveness with Mike Napoli, knowing that their offense is struggling, knowing that he's a guy that likes to run a lot of deep counts, but he's trying to jump on Anibal Sanchez really early in this at bat, trying to get a 2-run lead for the Red Sox.
Generally takes a lot of pitches, draws walks, and maybe even more so now than normal because the Red Sox have not been getting great production behind him in the lineup. 2 balls and a strike.
And you're not saying that Mike Napoli needs to expand his strike zone, maybe chase pitches out of the zone that he might be able to hit. I think what John Farrell would like is to, like in the first pitch, if you get something you can hit, let it fly.
John Farrell spoke before the game about the kind of situation the Red Sox had in the 4th inning last night. Bases loaded, 2 outs. How often have you seen a Red Sox team in recent memory get that big hit, blow a game open, come up with a 2 or 3 run producing hit? They just aren't getting that hit this year, and they're not going to get one this inning as Napoli is called out on strikes. No runs, no hits, a walk, and a man left. We're at the end of 1, and we're scoreless here at Fenway. Miguel Cabrera with a double in the first inning in his first at bat, but he was left stranded there, and there is no score in this game as we go to the top of the second right now here at Fenway. The Tigers trying to complete a sweep and improve upon their major league best 26-12 record. That is .684 baseball right now being played by the Tigers, and they are comfortably in front in the American League Central. Don Kelly, the batter.
And if you were the other teams in the American League Central, you're thinking, all right, they're going to go play the American League East. They're playing the Orioles, who were in first place at the time, and now the Boston Red Sox in Boston on the road, and they have a chance to go 6-0.
Minnesota, which was in second, entering play today, lost. Kansas City won. So Kansas City at the moment is 6.5 back pending the outcome of this game tonight. The White Sox lost today to Houston, and the Indians had a rough weekend against the Oakland A's. They were swept. Oakland outscored Cleveland 30-6 in the 3-game sweep.
And the White Sox just lost
Jose Abreu.
Yeah. Their big slugger to the DL. That's going to hurt them.
The Tigers have been in the American League Championship Series in each of the last 3 years. As Kelly pops one up middle of the diamond. It'll be Bogaerts. Speaking of the Tigers and of the Indians, you can see them tomorrow night as ESPN's coverage of Major League Baseball continues. It's Monday Night Baseball presented by USAA. The Tigers and the Indians tomorrow. Wednesday night it'll be the Dodgers and the Mets. And 1 week from tonight we will be at Great American Ballpark in Cincinnati. Always a good rivalry. The Cardinals and the Reds. Austin Jackson, the batter. Jackson running more this year. He's got 6 steals so far, hitting down in the lineup. And a guy who maybe when he was in the leadoff role might have been a little bit miscast as a leadoff hitter. Yeah, he's got speed. As he bounces one up the middle, Bogaerts to his left for out number 2, but not a really patient guy. Draws a lot of walks, strikes out a lot, but now he can do his thing down there, and he can run more down there probably.
Yeah, and it frees him up, too, to be more aggressive offensively, like you said, but not only running, but also swinging the bat. You know, a leadoff hitter, sometimes a young guy in the leadoff spot can get confused. Should I take pitches? Should I work a count? Should I be aggressive? And I think now it's just, now he's freed up to, first pitch. If you feel like hacking at it, let it go.
So 2 down, nobody on, no score, top of the second, and the batter is the left fielder, J.D. Martinez. Rajai Davis not in the starting lineup tonight. Martinez, formerly of the Houston Astros, gets a start as Peavy bounces one all the way to the backstop. Martinez released by Houston near the end of spring. Started off with the Tigers with AAA Toledo this year. Hit 10 home runs in his first 17 games. And you know what that'll get you?
Promotion.
A call-up, that's right. And he's now earning big league meal money.
And he's in first place.
Strike over the inside corner, 1-1. So Rajai Davis not in the lineup at left tonight. Nick Castellanos not in the lineup at third. As Don Kelly and J.D. Martinez get the starts in their place. Jake Peavy coming in, just 2 decisions in his first 8 starts this year. 1-1 with a .394 ERA through 8 starts. Problem for him has been walks. He comes into the game having walked 27 in 48 innings.
And when we talked to John Farrell before the game, he said some of those walks are a little misleading. Some of them were situational walks where he pitched around a guy, and he said in the other walks where he was, trying to pick the corners and not getting called strikes. He seems to be a little more aggressive in this start than what I've seen him in lately. A lot of fastballs challenging these Tigers hitters, and when you look at the bottom of the Tigers lineup today, there's some guys you can challenge there. Now the first 4 or 5 you might want to be careful with.
This ball's driven to deep left field, and it's going to be off the scoreboard. And Martinez on his way to second base and will be in there. the second double and the third really hard hit ball off Peavy already tonight.
I mentioned Jake Peavy being aggressive with the bottom part of this lineup, and there's another fastball he's trying to throw down and away, and he looks like he came over top of it and it ran back over the center of the plate. You see AJ having to reach to his left for that ball, knowing that it missed location, and JD Martinez didn't miss that one.
That'll leave a mark. Already Kinsler's hit one off the monster. Martinez has hit one off the scoreboard on the monster, and Cabrera hit one about 380 feet to right center. Here's the catcher, Alex Avila. Avila hitting .218, 2 home runs on the season. Batting in the 8th spot.
And if you're going to throw fastballs at 92 miles an hour, you better start mixing in something else, because they're not swinging and missing on that one when they do swing.
Off speed and in there, 1-1. Avila's best year was back in 2011. Hit .295 with 19 homers. Has not been able to get close to those numbers since. And it always seems like, as much as any catcher in the game, he is banged up and bruised. Foul tips, back swings. He always just seems to be on the wrong end of something.
It seems like once a game he gets a backswing on the back of his head, and that'll jar you.
It's sharply, but there to make the play, Pedroia, to end the inning. No score going to the bottom of the second. Sunday Night Baseball coming your way from beautiful Fenway Park in Boston. Welcome back to Boston. Sunday Night Baseball on ESPN, brought to you by Taco Bell. Fenway Park, the site of our game tonight. The Red Sox hosting the Detroit Tigers, the team with the best record in baseball. No scores. We go to the bottom of the second. 5, 6, and 7 for the Red Sox. Grady Sizemore, A.J. Pierzynski, and Xander Bogaerts. Sizemore hitting .225. And this is one of the areas, and this is kind of a broad area, where you look at the Red Sox offense and you go, boy, what a difference a year makes. is the middle to bottom part of the lineup, kind of 5 and on down. Last year, of course, they had Ellsbury leading off, so Pedroia didn't have to, so that lengthened the lineup. You had Daniel Nava hitting 6th most of the time, having a career year. And now look at from 5 on to 9, the Red Sox among the worst offensive teams in the American League. Little looper into left field, a base hit for Sizemore as we send it down to field level and Buster Olney.
Hey guys, Red Sox offensive struggles have led to a lot of conversations among the Boston veterans about being more efficient with the offense, about looking for opportunities to advance runners, going back to doing some fundamental things, because they know they're not scoring runs in bunches the way they did last year.
And you're not used to hearing a Red Sox team talk about executing fundamentally, moving runners, putting on a play. Usually it's go up there, swing the bat, draw your walks, and play pepper with the monster. But it's been a different story this year.
Yeah, it's been a different story. And you just go back to Dustin Pedroia, Dan. When you have to put him in the leadoff spot, now the whole lineup has changed. David Ortiz usually hits 4th. He's hitting 3rd. Mike Napoli hit 5th last year. He's hitting 4th this year. Then after that, it's John Farrell's trying to mix and match and hope they can get something out of someone. They put their stock in the offseason on a hope with Grady Sizemore. Can he play after sitting out almost 2 years? Jackie Bradley Jr. Can he be that top prospect offensive player who we thought we could? And so far, it's not worked out.
And the Tigers thinking that perhaps Sizemore is going to be on the move. Still runs well. Jackie Bradley Jr. has got some speed as well. The Red Sox have only stolen 11 bases all season, but teams run on Sanchez. In his last 42 starts, teams are 40 for 42 stealing bases with him on the mound. And of course, every team in baseball has their stopwatches. They've got their numbers, and they know who it's easier to run on.
Yeah, and Anibal Sanchez is slow to the plate. He's tried to speed it up a little bit this year. But if you want to try to shut down a running game, 0-2 is a pretty good way to do it. And you got to get ahead of guys. You can't give him good counts where you have to throw a strike. You can't pitch out. Now he can pitch out once. He can pitch out twice if he thinks Sizemore's going.
Little number back towards the mound, juggled a little bit by Sanchez, and that'll cost him whatever chance he may have had at getting the lead runner.
You can see he's a little upset. He wanted to try to get that double play turn.
He's a guy with some pretty good credentials. He's thrown a no-hitter. He's thrown 4 one-hitters. He won the ERA title last year. And remember, in the ALCS last year in this ballpark, 6 no-hit innings against the Red Sox, but then had to leave the game because he'd thrown 116 pitches. He had walked 6 and struck out 12. Xander Bogaerts the batter. Bogaerts just 21 years of age. Came up last year, and as Red Sox fans well remember, he played third base in the World Series for the Red Sox. Of course, he's the everyday shortstop this year. Off the end of the bat, dropping. That's a base hit. Sizemore around third will come in to score on a bloop RBI single by Bogaerts that gives Boston a 1-0 lead.
This is the Red Sox of last year. Anibal Sanchez, I think he's trying to go away with this slider. You see the slider spin on the baseball, and Bogaerts just hit it off the end of the bat, but just got just enough of it to hit it over the infielders' heads. And great base running by Grady Sizemore. As soon as that ball left his bat, he was flying towards home, knowing that Torrey Hunter had no chance of catching it. The Red Sox are. There's some production from the bottom of the lineup.
So a run into the second as the number 7 hitter. Bogaerts drives in the run, and now it's the number 8 hitter Brock Holt, the third baseman. 1 out in the inning. Holt in there for Will Middlebrooks, who's back on the DL. Suffered a fractured right index finger, and John Farrell not really knowing for sure. It's still early in the process, but saying maybe 4 weeks till they can get Middlebrooks back.
Yeah, I saw him today. It was a right index finger. I can imagine the feeling that would be trying to hit with that finger still fractured.
0-2 on Holt. There's Middlebrooks. The Red Sox counting pretty heavily on a young trio of players this year in Middlebrooks, Bogaerts, and Bradley.
So far, it's, you know, Bogaerts, I think you can't complain with what he's done. He got off to a great start, but you know, it slowed up some. But you know, he's still a guy that gives you a chance in the lineup right now. And you know, when we talked to John Farrell, and they mentioned about his confidence, and if it feels like he's lost, that's not a good thing. If it's a guy you want to be playing every day in center field.
Swing and a miss by Holt, 2 down. Every team tries to bring younger players into the lineup. Sometimes, of course, Bradley getting a bigger opportunity because Jacoby Ellsbury left as a free agent, and with Stephen Drew not re-signed, it was time for both Middlebrooks and Bogaerts to become regulars for the Red Sox.
Oh, absolutely. And you know, they wanted Will Middlebrooks to be the everyday third baseman last year, but he struggled and injured, and you know, couldn't find consistent playing time or consistent swing.
Here's Bradley, who is just 6 for 47 in the month of May. Ball 2.
But here's where you'll see if he feels like he's seeing the ball and has some confidence. 2-0. You know, Sanchez with Pedroia coming up next isn't going to want to nibble with him, so he's going to come right after him with a fastball. See if Jackie Bradley turns one loose.
Missed away, ball 3. Leadoff hitter Dustin Pedroia on deck should the inning continue.
Hardy looking for that high fastball in the on-deck circle, isn't he?
Sanchez first start in 3 weeks off the DL, blister problem, and just through pitch 30 of what is expected to be about 80 tonight, is as far as Brad Ausmus will let him go. Now full count.
Well, now if you're Jackie Bradley, you're thinking to yourself, are you kidding me? I'm hitting 200. I'm 6 for 250 in the month of May or whatever, and he throws me a 3-1 changeup. Wonder why young players get confused.
Bogaerts will be on the move. And the ball is laced into right field, a base hit. Bogaerts speeding around second on his way to third on a solid single by Bradley.
Well, they'll tell you that what you're going to get 3-1, you're probably going to get 3-2, and he got a 3-1 changeup at 86 miles an hour. And well, here comes Sanchez back with the 3-2 pitch, and it looks like a breaking ball, 3-2. And Jackie Bradley, you know, this should get him started a little bit. You would hope it would, because that's a pretty good swing. He keeps his head down on it, drives that ball into right field. You know, you get a 3-2 breaking ball. Most young hitters sitting dead red. He got to that one pretty quick, which is nice to see if you're the Red Sox.
So now Pedroia with an RBI opportunity. First and third, 2 down. He grounded out his first time up. Each team with 3 hits. Here's the Red Sox bat in the bottom of the second, leading 1-0. Sanchez taking a lot of time, and finally Pedroia requesting time. Any chance they try to move Bradley here?
Well, when Anibal Sanchez stepped off the mound, Bradley took about 2 or 3 steps towards second base, and I wondered what he was thinking, because when you step off, that usually means you have to go back. Maybe you know, maybe they're anticipating him running. I think with 1 strike, you still let Pedroia work his way through the at bat. He gets 2 strikes, you might want to send him.
And a ground ball to short to end the inning. But the Red Sox get a run, and it's the bottom part of the lineup that contributes. Xander Bogaerts drives it in, 1-0 Red Sox. Welcome back to Fenway Park, where the Red Sox have a 1-0 lead on the Tigers going to the top of the third. Miguel Cabrera having an incredible last couple of years for the Tigers, winning the MVP each of the last 2 seasons. 7th American League player ever to do that. Look at his average year the last 2 years. Better than .330, 44 homers, 138 RBIs on average. And he's won 3 straight batting titles. The first right-handed batter to do that since Rogers Hornsby. Pretty good company when you start throwing Cabrera's accomplishments into names like Gehrig, Ruth, Fox, and Hornsby.
Rarefied air.
And he is due up 4th this inning. Number 9 hitter Andrew Romine, the Tiger shortstop, will lead it off in the 3rd. And take outside ball 1. Romine, Kinsler, and Hunter against Peavy.
Romine last night had a tough one when Tigers are scoring runs, and he was 0 for 4 with 4 punch-outs.
And of course, it was supposed to be Jose Iglesias for the Tigers, but with injuries to both legs and likely out for the season, or possibly out for the season. Breaking ball misses inside. 2 balls and a strike. So Romine, who's the brother of Yankee catcher Austin Romine, and the son of former Red Sox outfielder, among other teams, Kevin Romine, moves into a starting role. But if you're the Tigers, you've got such a good offense. Really, number 1 is you just want somebody who can catch the ball.
Catch it and throw it to first. Yeah. Turn a double play when you can. Don't make mistakes. He's a big kid too. You know, you would think that the hitting part will come.
It back out of play again to stay alive. 28 years of age, 6'1" to 190 out of Arizona State, as he leads off the 3rd for the Tigers, who are down to 1-0. The Red Sox with only 2 runs in the series. Xander Bogaerts has driven in both of them. Detroit trying to win its 11th consecutive road game. Down the left field line, and in fair territory, Grady Sizemore will make the catch for the first out.
Well, the thing you love about Miguel Cabrera is he can cover every single pitch and cover it with power. Of course, down the middle, you know what he can do with that. There's a pitch in off the plate that he gets to, up and away in the strike zone. He gets to that one and hits it out. A ball down and away, way out of the strike zone, and a ball down and in, up and away. Dan, he covers every single pitch that you can throw, and that's what makes him difficult to pitch around, because a lot of those pitches were not strikes, and he still hit them hard. Some of them even left the ballpark.
You see in Kinsler, Cabrera 2 spots away, hopeful of an at-bat this inning, and Kinsler laces a ball down the left field line. It is fair. And after a single off the monster his first time up, Kinsler's got a double into the left field corner his second time up.
I want to try a different pitch. You think he can cover that one?
That is the third double already, and the fourth hard hit ball off Peavy tonight.
Well, his first at bat, he took a fastball for a strike, and then this one's a slider from Jake Peavy. They're just trying to get over a get me over slider that really did nothing, and that pitch could be abandoned soon by A.J. Pierzynski. That's just a bullet down the left field line. One hop off the 310 sign. Kinsler in with a double, and that pretty much guarantees that Miguel Cabrera will get to hit this inning.
He moves on deck as Torrey Hunter steps in and takes low ball one. Hunter hit a ball up the middle that looked like it was headed for center field, but because Kinsler was trying to steal, Pedroia was covering and took the ball right behind the bag at second, stepped on the bag, and threw to first to turn a double play. Infielders play him to pull. Outfielders play him to hit the ball the other way. Pedroia trying to keep Kinsler close out at second. And a pop-up, shallow right center. Who wants it? It'll be Jackie Bradley to make the catch, 2 down. So you got a base open, the game's greatest hitter coming up, but one of the game's greatest hitters in Victor Martinez hitting right behind him.
Yes, this is. I'm sure this is going to be we're going to pitch very carefully to him, and if you get one of 3 or 4 inches off the plate, he's still able to go out there and hit a base hit to right field.
If you're pitching to him, if he has a hole, where is it? Where would you try to pitch him?
Well, you would hope you can get up and in on him, which is. You know, I think most hitters have that weakness up in that area, but you know, I'm not sure he has one, Dan, and that's a scary thing. And a lot of the pitchers don't think he has one either.
Well, let's break it down a little bit more. Take a look at Miguel Cabrera's hot zone against right-handed pitching in the 2014 season. Red is 350 or above, blue 250 or below, so maybe down and away.
Down and away,
yeah.
But you have to make it a breaking ball. Down and away fastball is not going to do it. A down and away breaking ball might get him to roll over.
And he's got himself a base hit into left that'll drive in a run. Strong enough to fight it off and drive in a run with a single.
Well, Dan, this is what makes it so difficult to pitch around him. That pitch is a fastball that looked like it was in off the plate, and like you said, he just muscles this thing over the third baseman Brock Holt's head. Yeah, it's way in off the plate, but that's the thing with him. He's so strong. And yet, no, he didn't get the barrel to it, but he doesn't need to get the barrel to it every time to get base hits and drive in runs. And you see him yelling go, which kind of means, you know, go over the third baseman's head. And Brock Holt playing deep third base, tried everything he could. It just, you wonder why he's won a Triple Crown.
He's now hitting over 400 on the season, 404 to be exact, with runners in scoring position. as he ties the game, and that'll bring up Victor Martinez. I said first time up he had more home runs than strikeouts. He has the same number of home runs and strikeouts, 9 homers, 9 strikeouts on the season. He went almost a full year, Crucky, way over 500 at bats without taking a called third strike. That's crazy.
It just shows you what he thinks is important, is putting the ball in play and making things happen.
And obviously great knowledge of the strike zone too. I mean,
yeah,
so.
and a respected knowledge of knowledge of the strike zone. You know, when you have done it as long as you can, and you know, umpires will tell you, hey, we know he can take a walk, we know he knows the strike zone. You know, if it's a pitch off the plate a little bit, they're going to give him the benefit of the doubt with calls, because he does have that knowledge of the zone.
Remember, he missed the whole 2012 season, a knee injury, had surgery, got off to a slow start last year. About middle of the season, just took off, and he's hitting over 350 since July 1st of last year. It was his injury that really led to the fielder acquisition, right? The fielder side.
Well, they needed someone behind Cabrera.
Hooked foul.
So we need him to hit a home run so we can brag more about the
home run strikeout
thing. That'll work, won't it?
Tigers have tied it here in the third on an RBI single by Miguel Cabrera. And with 2 down, the batter Victor Martinez battling with an 0-2 count against Jake Peavy. Vantage points down the left field line here at Fenway. Big crowd tonight. Monster seats are full. This ball is well struck. Deep right center field and gone. And he did it. And he's got more home runs than strikeouts now on the season.
Well, eventually tonight we'd be right about something.
Now, remember, for so many years, you would talk about David Ortiz and Manny Ramirez as indisputably the best 3-4 combo in baseball. I think the Tigers have that combo right now.
Yeah, without question. And a lot of it's Miguel Cabrera, but a lot of it catching up is Victor Martinez because of that injury. But, the pitch before, he took a great take on a changeup, 86-mile-an-hour changeup down and in. And then he gets another changeup here at 83 miles an hour. And, I mean, you just look at that swing, just beautiful. Real firm on the front side, and the power. Wow.
10th of the season for Martinez, and for Jake Peavy, he has now given up at least 1 home run in every start that he's made this year. 0-2 on Don Kelly. Pop back out of play.
If you're Jake Peavy and A.J. Pierzynski, he's been rolling his slider up there, so that pitch kind of has been eliminated, and now the change up to Victor Martinez gets hit for a home run. Now you wonder if Jake Peavy's might have a little veteran guy, shouldn't, but I don't know if you noticed this at bat with Don Kelly, but there hadn't been anything but fastballs.
And remember, the Red Sox juggled the rotation, wanted Peavy in there because the Tigers have been demolishing lefties, so they flip-flopped Peavy and Dubron. And Peavy had a rough one on Tuesday at Minnesota, 6 earned and 4 1/3. And now in the early going tonight, having a rough one against the Tigers. This ball's popped up. Pedroia there, and the inning is over. But it is Cabrera and Martinez who strike for Detroit. An RBI single for Cabrera and a 2-run blast for Martinez. Tigers lead. Sunday night baseball in our 25th season here on ESPN, and coming to you live from Boston as the Tigers just put a 3-spot up on the board thanks to Miguel Cabrera and Victor Martinez, and they've got a 3-1 lead. 2-3-4 for the Red Sox. Victorino, Ortiz, and Napoli against Anibal Sanchez. Victorino with a soft liner to second his first time up. The Red Sox have lost 3 in a row. Have not lost 4 in a row at any point this season. Have not even won 3 in a row at any point this season. It has been a struggle so far for John Farrell and the Red Sox. They're 20-22, under 500, 4th place in the American League East. The good news for them is nobody's running away with the division. The Yankees are hot right now. They've won 4 in a row, but they're 23-19. So even as badly as Boston is scuffling, they're only 3 games out of first.
Yeah, 2 games under 500. Usually in the American League East will put you to about 5 or 6, 7 games out by now. Now the Red Sox are only 3 out and well within striking distance this early in the season.
To right field, but right at Torrey Hunter. Now David Ortiz, who walked in the first. Take a look at Big Papi's hot zone against right-handed pitchers so far this year.
Should be pretty red. He doesn't miss many. But there you go. You know, center of the plate, in, away, down the middle, and down and away, which you would think with his power, down and in, usually is that place that you don't want to throw lefties there. And there's a breaking ball in one of the red zones that he just took. Maybe he's looking for it in another red zone.
I want to see his hot zone against the Minnesota Twins. Be a lot of red. He torments his old team. Not this time. Easy play with Sanchez covering, and Ortiz retired 2 down. So quick 2 outs here for Sanchez in the third. Good news for him because he's on a pitch count tonight, and that'll bring up Mike Napoli.
And I know David Ortiz has been hurt. Shane Victorino has the knee, but neither one of them made it to first base this inning on fly ball to right and a grounder to first.
They're not quite playing with the same, I don't think energy is the word I'm looking for, but I mean, they had a great year last year, obviously. Went on to win the World Series. So many things went right, but there was just an electricity about this team at times. And obviously, you don't win, you don't hit. You can look like a pretty flat bunch sometimes.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You know, they're basically doing on the field the same things that they have been doing. You know, David Ortiz doesn't run as hard as he can out of the box on routine ground balls like he did there. Just sometimes when you're not playing well, it looks bad. You know, you can do anything you want in the clubhouse. You know the red, white, and blue shorts that all those guys wear, the oversized, look like boxing shorts or whatever they're you know, the boxers wear. And you know, that's all great when you're winning. And now it's like, you know, hey, come on, you know, let's button it down a little bit. I don't have any doubts that this team will find a way to get back in it. But I think they're going to have to get a player to do it.
Hunter racing over, won't have a play.
I don't know how long they're going to be able to stick with, you know, Ben Cherington, I'm sure, is trying to figure this thing out too and trying to make some calls to see how they can upgrade their team. But I don't know how long you can, you know, stick with putting this team on the field every day and expect to compete in the American League East. And with that being said, they're only 3 out.
Yep. Now, the East is normally the best division in baseball, but this year it's been very, very average as a group, right around the 500 mark. Nobody breaking away from the pack, and actually Tampa Bay really scuffling right now.
Yeah, and you know, Tampa's had some injuries, but I mean, the Yankees have 3 starting pitchers on the disabled list, and they're still in first place. You would think this is when teams would make up ground, and you know, everyone's just, you know, win 2, lose 2, win 2, lose 2, and that's why you see so many teams bunched up in this division.
And Napoli draws the walk. Don't miss extensive coverage of the NBA on ESPN on Tuesday at 7 Eastern. The Kia NBA Countdown crew breaks down the Eastern Conference Final Game 2. How about Indiana? The Pacers beating the Heat 107-96 in Game 1 today. And at 8 Eastern, it is the NBA Draft Lottery. NBA coverage on Tuesday begins at 7 on ESPN. You've got the Draft Lottery and then Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals. A loaded draft this year with all kinds of talent from college basketball coming out. That lottery holding a lot of intrigue for a lot of people. Weak bouncer to first off the bat of Sizemore to end the inning. 3-1 Tigers at the end of 3 here in Boston. Checking it out at the Monster Concession Stand here at Fenway as we go to the 4th inning on Sunday Night Baseball. The Red Sox trailing the Tigers 3-1. And Austin Jackson sends the first pitch in the air to right center field. Drifting back Bradley to make the catch, 1 down. Well, the Tigers in the midst of a pretty impressive run, and most of it, of course, happening under the guidance of former manager Jim Leyland, American League champions in 2006, and then the last 3 years winning the American League Central, all 3 years playing in the ALCS, all 3 years advancing to the World Series in 2012. A great run for Jim Leyland, who is still involved in the game but no longer on the field. And you talk about a guy who's got baseball in his blood, oozing out of his pores. I mean, that's Jim Leyland.
Yeah, he'll never walk away from the game and not be involved somehow. And even Brad Ausmus told us there's a few times during this season already where he's called him and asked his opinion, get a feel for what he thinks he was doing. And you got that baseball mind at your disposal. You use it. And Brad Ausmus is a very smart man, and smart people do smart things, and calling Jim Leyland's never a bad thing.
So that Jim Leyland probably watches just about every pitch of Tigers baseball as Peavy muscles up and misses high. A ball and 2 strikes. We asked Ausmus before the game, what about being a major league manager has surprised you or anything like that in his first year? And he said, nothing really.
Dealing with the media.
Dealing with the media. Yeah, a little bit more time having to deal with folks like us than he's used to. 2 balls, 2 strikes. Leyland right now still a special advisor to general manager Dave Dombrowski in the Tiger organization. And how about Leyland's good buddy Tony La Russa?
Wow.
Getting back in, taking over baseball operations for the Arizona Diamondbacks. A little jam shot base hit into center field for J.D. Martinez as we go down to Buster.
Tigers general manager Dave Dombrowski told me that when he interviewed Brad Ausmus for the managerial job, he was really impressed that Brad, although he's a really smart guy, went to Dartmouth, he graduated from an Ivy League school, he didn't use big words, and he said that he really got the sense that he'd be able to communicate with everybody. He never seemed to try to make it seem like he was smarter than anybody else. When you talk to his former teammates, they'll always tell you Brad's incredibly understated and has a very strong sense of himself.
All right, Buster, thank you. 3-1 Tigers, runner at first, 1 out. And here's Alex Avila. Ausmus said he began thinking about becoming a manager in the second half of his playing career, which spanned 18 years. Avila grounded out his first time up.
Yeah, you knew just watching him play, you knew that there was a lot there to offer the game once he got done. The fact that he's Ivy League educated doesn't hurt anything, I suppose.
Came to Fenway Park a lot as a kid. A Connecticut kid, spent a lot of time coming to Red Sox games when he was young. 18 years as a catcher in the big leagues with San Diego, Detroit, Houston, and the Dodgers. Good changeup there for Peavy out in front of Avila. And the shift is on.
Well, it's amazing how they put the shift on 2 pitches into the, going into the 3rd pitch of the at bat. What if he hit a ground ball to where Brock Holt's playing right now with one of the first 2 pitches?
Runners going. Pitch swung on and missed. Throw down on a bounce and not in time as Martinez steals it. And you see all kinds of Red Sox players scrambling over to third base because nobody was on that side of the field, just in case Martinez made a mad dash.
Yeah, this is the one thing with a shift is you put a guy in motion. Now everyone has to run. Now Pedroia has to back up. No, now I have to cover third because there's no one there because Brock Holt's playing beside me on the other side. Look at Pedroia. Back up. Okay. All right. Bogaerts caught it. Now I got to run to third base. in case J.D. Martinez gets up and tries to beat me to the bag. Too much stuff going on there, Dan, for those shifts.
And a swing and a miss by Avila for the second out.
I just, going back, it just amazing to me how after 2 pitches in the at bat you can say, oh, we got a shift. That kind of,
they do it a lot, and they'll switch it in the middle of a count. Sometimes who's where will switch in the middle of the count. Sometimes if it's a double play situation or not will determine who is where again, whereas other teams like the Tigers, this is the way they do it, and that's it.
Yeah,
that's the end of the story. Here's Romine. By the way, as all of a sudden the changeups become the go-to pitcher for Peavy in the 4th inning, the steal for J.D. Martinez is the 37th of the season for the Tigers. They have more stolen bases this year than they had all of last season.
And who would have thought the Tigers would lead the league in stolen bases?
2 hopper to second, gobbled up by Pedroia, and the inning is over. To the bottom of the 4th at Fenway Park, the Red Sox coming up trailing 3-1. Tigers 3, Red Sox 1, going to the bottom of the 4th. Time now to get some FaceTime, brought to you by Edward Jones, Buster Olney, with Tigers manager Brad Ausmus.
Brad, how much does the fact that you have Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez affect decisions made by opposing pitchers, catchers, managers?
Well, it does make them tough. You don't really want to pitch around Miggy to get to Victor, especially right now the way Victor's swinging the bat. There are some teams that have chosen to not face Victor once they've gotten past Miggy, but they're a tough 1-2 combination.
How much longer with Anibal Sanchez?
Well, we're going to keep our eye on him. Right now his pitch count's actually pretty good for where we're at in the game. But we got to be careful with him. He hasn't been out on the mound for a while, and in his simulated he only got up around 65 pitches, so we'll be smart with him.
Brad, thanks.
48 pitches through 3 for Sanchez as he faces A.J. Pierzynski here in the bottom of the 4th. Now a little special note here about Brad Ausmus. Still has the good reflexes as Buster Olney's about to go toppling down the stairs, and a good save there by the ex-catcher. Sorry, Buster. You're speechless.
Well, yeah. I guess first base isn't the only thing that's watered down. Apparently that top step of the dugout has a little moisture on it too.
Pierzynski grounded out his first time up. And just outside from Sanchez. It's a good thing Buster doesn't have an adversarial relationship with Ausmus, or he might not have reached out and tried to help him there.
Well, Brad's first time being talked to, Buster. See how that plays out as the year goes on. It's just reaction. You know, something's coming toward you, try to catch it. Unlike Peter Pasquarelli.
Well, guys, I actually played rec league basketball with Brad Ausmus in 1994, so he owes me.
Here's a little jam shot, one hopper. And Romine throws out Przinski by a step. Say that again. You played rec league basketball with Brad Ausmus 20 years ago?
Yeah, during the strike, player strike in 1994, I played with Brad Ausmus. I played with Bruce Bochy, Trevor Hoffman, all the San Diego Padres. I was covering Brad when he broke into the big leagues with the Padres.
As a reporter or in basketball you were covering Brad?
But no. I was covering him as a reporter. I was on the same team as him as a basketball player. He could dunk. I couldn't. Did
you ever get the ball? Did they ever give you the ball?
I was very good at drawing charges.
Good. And under orders not to shoot?
Oh, I could shoot.
Yeah?
I could shoot. But when you get Brad Ausmus, Trevor Hoffman, Bruce Bochy, they're filling it up.
Who was the best player of those three?
Believe it or not, Bruce Bochy could really shoot, but Brad Ausmus was the best player.
Really? Interesting. Good stuff.
I'm not picturing Boch with a good crossover, though. just
Not a deceptively quick first step?
Well, no, it's a slow first step, and the second one's probably slower. But, yeah, I'm not seeing him dribbling past people. But large man, I believe his post-up game would be pretty good.
Good sharp breaking ball there from Sanchez, and he jumps out in front of 1-2 on Xander Bogaerts, who has driven in the Red Sox run tonight. Romine again. 2 down.
Well, you wonder why you can carry a guy who's struggling offensively as Andrew Romine is. Well, this is why. This is a great play. Bogaerts isn't a slow runner by any stretch of the imagination, but got it on the second hop. Great strong throw to where Miguel Cabrera can actually stretch for this ball if he needed to, but it got there just in enough time that he didn't really have to go out and get it. Beautiful play by Romine.
And both the eye test and the metrics suggest that the Tigers, while they may not be a great defensive team, they are certainly a better defensive team than they were a year ago. Romine now at short, more range than Peralta. Cabrera to first, Castellanos at third, an upgrade on Cabrera. Cabrera probably an upgrade on fielder. Rajay Davis, more speed in left field, and they just get to a lot more balls and turn a lot more balls into outs this year than they did last year. 3 up and 3 down. A quick inning for Sanchez. 3-1 Tigers at the end of 4. Tigers going to the top of the 5th here at Fenway on Sunday Night Baseball. Time now to get a little more FaceTime, brought to you by Edward Jones. Buster is now with the Red Sox manager John Farrell.
John, when you have a situation where Miguel Cabrera, Victor Martinez are going this hot, how much of a challenge do they present for you as a manager?
Well, I tell you, we've seen what they're capable of doing. You know, you don't make a pitch when we're ahead in the count, and Victor's got a chance to drive it out of the ballpark. They're two very good hitters, and they come in extremely hot. So you try to manage as best you can, even if that means putting another guy on base to get to their bottom half of the order. But they're swinging about very well right now.
What do you see as an adjustment that you guys need to make against Sanchez?
Well, we had an opportunity there with the 2 outs, first and third situation after a run in. And the biggest thing is, we talked about before the game, is that, we continue to present opportunities to ourselves, getting guys on base. That big 2-out hit or RBI situation has been elusive for us.
John, thanks.
And that's been the biggest problem for the Red Sox, really. If you had to boil down their struggles this year to one thing, you would probably say they haven't gotten the clutch hit like they did last year, like you associate Red Sox teams with getting in recent years, especially at home, especially here in this ballpark. They just aren't scoring runs like they normally do.
Yeah, and it's got to be frustrating to every man on this Red Sox team that they're not able to duplicate what they did last year. Getting guys on is hard enough. Getting them in is even harder, and the Red Sox right now are really struggling in that runners in scoring position, especially with 2 outs.
Well, John Farrell pointing out before the game, the Red Sox are 3rd in the American League in on-base percentage, but they're down in the bottom half of the league in runs scored. As PEAVY misses away 2-1 on Kinsler, who's got a single and a double tonight. Top of the order for the Tigers, and that means Miguel Cabrera, who's got a single and a double and an RBI, is coming up this inning. Curveball low, 3-1.
This is where Jake Peavy 3-1. He's probably, knowing what's coming up behind him, he's probably going to throw Kinsler a pitch, a fastball away, keep him away from the green monster. But if he does, he can hit that 420 sign, get it. Well, he's just going to hit it there to third base again and get another hit.
Holt knocks it down, but that'll be a base hit for Kinsler. He's 3 for 3. So as Hunter comes up, Cabrera comes out on deck. And is he relaxed? I mean, is this guy relaxed?
Wouldn't you be?
If you could hit like that?
If you knew you're the best hitter on the planet,
yep.
You got a great long-term contract.
And what did Brad Ausmus say before the game? He's just like a big kid who loves being part of a team.
Yes, and that's a beautiful thing. Said he doesn't like all the individual attention he gets. But, if you don't want that attention, hit 220. You won't get any.
Runner goes. And a base hit into right center for Torrey Hunter. So it resulted in a double play back in the first. This time it's 1st and 3rd here in the 5th.
Miguel Cabrera, we talked about it earlier, how he can cover pretty much every pitch and cover it with power. 45 home runs to left field, 22 to center, 21 to right. It's a pretty good distribution. You don't see many guys that can hit 21 home runs to the opposite field.
Wrapped one around the pesky pole last night.
Yeah, it's just, now what do you do if you're Jake Peavy? You have 1st and 3rd. You hope you can jam him or something, get a pop up here, but then you have Victor to deal with. And this is where the game can get out of hand really quickly, because there's nowhere to put Cabrera. And if you do decide, you know what, I'm not going to let him beat me, now you have to pitch to a guy with the bases loaded who just hit a 2-run homer his last at bat.
Some guys starting to get up and just stretching, getting loose if the call comes down to the bullpen as Cabrera hits a fly ball to right field. Victorino setting up. Kinsler will tag. Catch is made. Throw comes into second. Sac fly scores a run. 4-1 Tigers. Second RBI of the night, 39th RBI on the season already for Miguel Cabrera, as we take a look now at Dumore, brought to you by Safeco, and nobody has done more offensively than Miguel Cabrera, and that's the understatement of the night.
No, it's, a lot of first there, isn't there? It's just unbelievably amazing what he can do year in and year out on a consistent basis, and his 2 MVPs are well earned and well deserved.
That wouldn't shock anybody if he did it again this year.
No, unless this guy hitting right now decides to take it from him. But
well, as you said, if they start pitching around Cabrera on a consistent basis, this guy might drive in 150.
Yeah, he could easily be the MVP if they continue, if they try to start pitching around Miguel.
Well, Cabrera now with the 2 RBIs tonight in sole possession of second in that department in the American League, behind only Jose Abreu of the Chicago White Sox, the outstanding rookie who's got 42 RBIs but just went on the DL with an ankle injury. Cabrera is in the top 10 in batting average right now. It's only the quarter pull of the season right now. He's only, quote unquote, only got 7 home runs. Abreu leads the league with 15. Long way to go.
Oh. And how many do you think he would have if he played in that ballpark at the White Sox home ballpark?
And a double play. Boy, that is an odd double play as you will ever see, with Napoli trying to figure out, go to the bag, go to the runner, and then realizing still had time to get Martinez with Peavy covering to minimize the damage in the inning. Another rocket off a Tiger bat. Napoli tagging Hunter and then throwing to Peavy to win the inning. Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell, is brought to you by Bayer Back and Body, the official pain reliever of MLB, and Chevrolet. Celebrate the new season with Chevrolet. Share your excitement using hashtag the new. A strike at the knees from Anibal Sanchez to Jackie Bradley Jr. to get the bottom of the 5th started. 4-1 Tigers. Sanchez, in his first start since coming off the DL, missed 3 weeks with a blister problem. Has been very solid, has kept the ball down. As Bradley, who spent a lot of time working on bunting before the game today, bunts one halfway up on the screen, and it's 0-2.
It's because you work on it, doesn't mean you perfected it. But this is what his game has to be. He has to try to figure out ways to get on base. See the batting average, 206. He did single his first at bat on a sharp line drive to right field on a changeup by Anibal Sanchez.
3 pitches and gone. Strikeout number 3 tonight for Sanchez.
That wasn't a very competitive at bat.
It's the 43rd time that Bradley has struck out this year. Sanchez can be a big strikeout guy. He's had as many as 17 in a game. And over the last 2 years in the American League, only Yu Darvish and Max Scherzer as starting pitchers, averaging more strikeouts per inning than Anibal Sanchez. His teammate Max Scherzer, the Cy Young Award winner last year. How about this staff with Justin Verlander, Scherzer, Sanchez.
Porcello's as hot as anyone right now.
He's won 6 starts in a row. Drew Smiley. They traded Doug Fister to Washington, got back Robbie Ray, who's done a nice job filling in for them, and he's actually going to stay with them. They sent Justin Miller down to the minors when Sanchez was activated. As Pedroia laces a ball off the monster, puts the brakes on and heads back to first. They want to give Porcello a couple of extra days, a little tweak in his side, so they're pushing him back just a little bit. And once through the rotation, they'll go with 6 guys.
Nice luxury to have, and a nice sight for John Farrell, his leadoff hitter, who has been a lot better in the leadoff spot than he was earlier in the season. But there's a 88 mile an hour. I don't know if that was his fastball or changeup or whatever it was. Dustin Pedroia didn't miss it. And, you know, Fenway giveth and Fenway taketh away. Anywhere else, that's a double. Fenway, it's a long single.
So runner at first, 1 out for Victorino. And a strike right down the middle.
What I mentioned about Victorino and David Ortiz not making it to first base, I wasn't being critical of them. It's just veteran players can get away with it. If that was Yasiel Puig, he gets benched, and that's, you know, they you know, with injury and with David Ortiz's stature, they I don't want to say they've earned the right, but you know, that's the way the game is right now.
Just kind of a save your bullets thing with all the guys who have had injuries.
Absolutely. You know, and Ortiz was, you know, he had that foot injury the last couple years, and you know, Victorino's coming off the knee injury. You know, and I'm sure that he's been told by John Farrell and others, you know, if you hit a routine ball and you're out, you don't have to go 100% to first base.
And Avila gets nicked up by a foul tip. We mentioned it before the game. There is no catcher in baseball who seems to get hit by a foul tip or a backswing or what have you more than Alex Avila. And the Tigers have actually wondered why that is. They've tried to move him around behind the plate, move him further back.
You take that one, Dan. That's apparently they've shown it to
you could just hear
the fans.
You could hear the collective groan from the crowd here at Fenway as all of the monitors showed the replay.
Every male fan in the in the stadium understands. And let's go to the 1-2 pitch to Victorino, please.
Runner goes. And a base hit through the vacated right side. Hit and run works, first and third. And look who's up. Well, they've been waiting and waiting and waiting most of the season for the clutch hitting. This guy has certainly done his part. There's nobody John Farrell would rather see at the plate right now than David Ortiz.
Well, and another thing it does, too, is it takes the shift away with runners on first and third because Kelly has to stay put. Kinsler has to play for a double play. Now that holds wide open for David Ortiz between first and second.
Ripped foul. Activity in the Tiger bullpen with Sanchez at 71 pitches, and again it was speculated maybe around 80 that Brad Ausmus would allow him to throw. Robbie Ray is up in the pen. At third, Pedroia. At first, Victorino. Red Sox down 4-1, bottom of the fifth. And another throw to first.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the thought process is in here unless you're trying to get your pitcher in the bullpen warmed up, because if Victorino steals here coming off the knee injury with David Ortiz up, first and third, one out.
Out in front.
But his first two approaches at home plate were very aggressive pull approaches. You saw the foul ball he hit on the 1-0 pitch. The take even had, he was trying to get out in front of one, and what a smart piece of pitching by Anibal Sanchez and Alex Aviles to throw that changeup down and away. You see Ortiz right there. He thinks that's a fastball, and I'm going to crush this thing to right center field, tie this game up, and just out in front of it.
Liable to get another one here?
I would venture to guess it's either going to be something hard in off the plate so he can go back out to that one, but he's not wasting time.
Threw him another one, but he missed down and away. And Ortiz, you could tell, either felt it was coming or picked it up really quickly.
Well, you're not one of the best clutch hitters in the history of the game, and you know, a top RBI guy for one of the best offensive teams in baseball the last couple of years by swinging at the same pitch that he just threw him.
Will he get a third in a row? Runner goes. Throw down and safe. On a close play is Victorino. And man, this is interesting. It's 3-2.
Yeah, this is going to be an interesting move for Brad Ausmus, and he was on the top step. He just went down a few because he's probably thinking, uh-oh, now what? But, yeah, you know, I think you have to have confidence in Anibal Sanchez that he can locate a pitch where he wants, and if he does walk him, so be it. But maybe he can get Ortiz to chase, and, you know, Brad Ausmus just said, you know what, I'm taking it out of my pitcher's and catcher's hand right now. I'm going to make him walk him. And I thought they might try to throw a changeup down and away to see if he would chase, be over aggressive in a situation where he thinks he can drive in 2 runs. But give Brad Ausmus credit. He said, you know what, I'm not going to let him deal with it.
You don't, pretty unusual situation. You don't see this chain of events very often, as David Ortiz has intentionally walked for the 9th time this season. Jeff Jones, the pitching coach, on the way to the mound, and you talked about it before it happened. If Victorino runs, takes the bat out of Ortiz's hand. So would you rather, if you're the Red Sox, would you rather be first and third with Ortiz up, or bases loaded with Napoli up, with the bat having been taken out of Ortiz's hand?
Well, I would never want the bat taken out of David Ortiz's hand. But I think what Shane Victorino was guessing on right there was a 2-2 pitch that Sanchez didn't want to go 3-2, and he might throw him a strike. And if Ortiz hits it in the gap, now he scores easily from first base. But yeah, I don't think I would ever run anyone in front of David Ortiz with the thought that if it is a ball, he's not going to get a chance to hit. Because right now, you have to understand that Mike Napoli hasn't hit a home run in over 60-something at bat. Only hit one since he dislocated his finger. So
that's why I think I would let Ortiz be that guy.
So you suspect Victorino did that on his own?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. So now it's bases loaded, 1 out for Napoli, who has struck out and walked. And a strike. This has the feel of last batter for Sanchez. A couple of lefties due up after Napoli, a lefty Ray up in the pen. Sanchez at 76 pitches, only through 65 in his simulated game. First start since coming off the DL. And a collective groan from a capacity crowd here at Fenway. It's 0-2.
Yeah, and this is where, you know, John Farrell had said it, and you know, we've witnessed it, that Mike Napoli's 2-strike approach has been a lot different this year. He's giving in, he's taking the ball the other way. Sometimes, though, Dan, with the bases loaded, giving in doesn't come into the equation.
Leaves the slider high. Ausmus with one interesting decision already this inning, and electing to intentionally walk Ortiz when the count was 3-2. To let Sanchez go after Napoli. And a bouncer to third. What's the play? Coming home. And the ball is not caught cleanly by Avila. The run will score.
Well, this is an inexperienced third baseman in Don Kelly right here trying to make something happen. Pedroia can run. You know, with the bases loaded, as soon as the ball's on the ground, he's taking off on contact. And this is a play right here that if you're Don Kelly with a 4-1 lead, you know what? You give him the run, get the out at first base, and that way, you know, it's going to take a base hit to tie the game right now. You know, base hit puts him ahead. A double ball in the gap puts him ahead now. You got to get an out right there.
Look like if the play is made cleanly, they would have beaten Pedroia. They would have gotten the out. We're going to try to get a look from another angle, whether the ball bounced, whether it short hopped Avila or whether it was low but got there on the fly. And there you can see it bounced just in front of his glove. Oh, and he had it. He had it for a while, but he didn't know he had it. And that's why he dropped it.
Yeah, he didn't close the glove.
He had it but didn't know it, and that was the difference. Now line back to the mound, and a bullet fired to third by Sanchez to double off the runner and end the inning. How crazy is baseball? A little number up the line, scores a run, and a rocket results in an inning-ending double play.
With Barry Larkin, I'm Carl Ravitch, Sunday Night Baseball, and Anibal Sanchez stays in the game. Brad Ausmus doesn't go to the lefty. He gets a line drive from Sizemore and a double play. A web gem there to get him through the fifth inning, and right now the Tigers have themselves a 4-2 lead. We'll get you back inside in just a moment to Dan and John. I am joined by Barry, who, after showing you the nominees, the best defensive plays, the web gems during baseball tonight, now reveals the top three.
Neil Walker, second baseman, Pittsburgh Pirates, has done this quite a few times. He's made great plays. This is a little tip drill. Ball hit back up to the middle to the pitcher. Morton to Walker. Bare hand to first base, catching that ball on the run. Very difficult play, but he makes it look very easy. Tyler Moore, a guy that plays all different positions. Whenever you put him in the game, he's going to give you this kind of effort. Great laying out. Great play at first base, Tyler Moore. Kevin Kiermaier, Tampa, center fielder. Now watch this, folks. This is in Anaheim. This is Mike Trout territory. Get up on that wall, catch the ball. Great play. I can do it too.
Yes, he can. A lot of great defensive plays as we go back to Dan and John.
All right, guys, thank you. And we go to the 6th inning here at Fenway with the lead now 4-2 for the Tigers over the Red Sox. Don Kelly leads it off for Detroit. And hits a ground ball down to first. Napoli will feed Peavy for the out. Just got the scoring actually between the innings on the play, and Kelly was charged with an error on the play. The Red Sox get a run out of it, and it's 4-2 here in the 6th inning. That'll bring up Austin Jackson.
Seen some strange things in this one, haven't we?
Jackson takes a strike. One and one on Jackson, who is grounded out and flied out. Tigers 4 runs, 9 hits and an error. Red Sox 2 runs, 5 hits, no errors. The Tigers winning the first 2 games of the season. They've got the best record in all of baseball. Now that's a much better breaking ball from Peavy than we've seen for most of the night.
Well, that's the best one he's thrown, or the best one that has fooled the Tigers hitter. You have to remember, though, Austin Jackson is a guy that will strike out a lot. You know, you didn't see Victor Martinez swinging at that pitch. You didn't see Cabrera swinging at that pitch.
Threw it again, but this time Jackson takes it. Ray still throwing in that Tigers pen. And there was a hanger. That was another slider, but right over the middle of the plate. And he pays the price for it as Jackson is on his way into second base. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell is brought to you by Bayer Back in Body, the official pain reliever of MLB. And Chevrolet. Celebrate the new season with Chevrolet. Share your excitement using #TheNew. That is the 10th hit already for Detroit. And that includes 5 extra base hits. That was our ride, by the way.
That's Carl leaving the set of baseball tonight. Getting out of here.
There's J.D. Martinez, a double, a single, a stolen base.
Let's see if J.D. Martinez can continue his hot hitting, driving a run, and take that shutdown inning away from Jake Peavy.
Nope. And a pop-up. It will be Napoli making the catch in foul territory, 2 down. About an inning ago, we mentioned Jose Abreu is the only guy in the American League with more RBIs than Miguel Cabrera, but that lead may not last long because he has gone to the disabled list with an ankle injury. Jaime Garcia returned for St. Louis today. First time in about a year after shoulder surgery. 7 innings, 4 runs, did not get a decision. St. Louis, though, eventually lost to Atlanta. Prince Fielder, more injury problems for the Texas Rangers. A neck injury and undetermined when he will be back. And the Oakland A's demolished Cleveland this weekend, outscored them 30-6. The A's are on some kind of a roll right now as their record is now 28-16. They've won 9 of their last 10 games. The only team with a better record in baseball than Oakland is Detroit. Angels playing some pretty good ball as well. They won again today. Defeating Tampa Bay 6-2. Albert Pujols hit 2 home runs. Other news around baseball: the Pirates and Yankees split a doubleheader today. We're going to look at a different kind of shift again with a runner at second base. Can't move over as far as you would like. Yoenis Cespedes drove in 5, Crucky, for Oakland today. They can hurt you.
Well, they just need him to get hot just so they can continue that offensive onslaught that they've put on the American League this year. What would give? Hypothetical. Oakland
and Detroit.
Tigers in the ALCS. Great pitching on both sides. Great offenses on both sides.
They are by far the 2 best teams record-wise right now in the American League. There's a liner to right field. That's a base hit for Avila. And that is going to get a run home. A 2-out RBI single by Avila scores Jackson and makes it 5-2.
Jake Peavy would like to squeeze the stuffing out of that ball, but you know they have a shift on for a reason. You see Avila right there. He gets on top of that fastball by Jake Peavy. Again, it's another poorly located pitch by Jake Peavy in this ball game.
And he may be on borrowed time right now. The Red Sox pen is up as Romine takes a strike.
Well, the thing it does is not only does it drive in a run, which the Tigers love, but it gets Romine up to bat right now, and if he does make the 3rd out of the inning, they go right back to the top of the order. If he gets on, you have Kinsler, who's got 3 hits already.
Junichi Tazawa is up in the Boston pen. John Farrell's been pretty satisfied in general with how the team has pitched this year. Second rough outing in a row for Peavy. The offense has been the bigger problem. But Peavy has been hit hard. A lot of line drives tonight by the Tigers. And the inning is over. But the Tigers answer back with a run and lead 5-2 over the Red Sox as we go to the bottom of the 6th, as Crucky laments that his good buddy Carl is headed home for the night. To Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell. With John Kruk, Buster Olney, I'm Dan Schulman. We go to the bottom of the 6th inning. The Tigers looking to sweep, and they're up 5-2 on the Red Sox. New pitcher for Detroit. Sanchez on a pitch count. Got through 5 after that line drive double play. So qualifies for a win if the bullpen can get it done. Robbie Ray comes into the game. Look at these numbers.
And they were talking about setting him down.
And he's scheduled to start Thursday. They want to push Porcello back a couple of days, but then he could go back down to the minors to stay, to keep pitching as a starter in case they need him. Remember the trade with Washington, Pfister going to the Nationals, Ray, Ian Kroll coming to the Tigers, and a lot of people said, what's Dave Dombrowski doing? Dave Dombrowski always knows exactly what he's doing. You don't pull the wool over the guys at Dave Dombrowski.
Yeah, he's a good one. I can tell you that.
They wanted to get Smiley into the rotation. He'd kind of been waiting his turn.
And a lefty in the rotation, too. It's something that they didn't have last year.
2 balls and a strike on A.J. Pierzynski, who's 0 for 2 tonight.
You just see arms that get traded. I mean, this is a lefty throwing 94, 95 miles an hour. Love Doug Pfister, but these guys don't come along that often.
And Ian Kroll out of the bullpen. All he's done is pitch to an ERA just over 2 in 18 appearances. He's a lefty as well.
Doug Pfister helps the Nationals win.
And Pierzynski, who can battle with the best of them, is having to pull every trick out of the bag just to foul off pitches and stay alive in this at bat.
That's pretty bad when you're battling off fastballs by check swinging to try to stay alive in an at bat. Normally doesn't bode well for you in the end.
And another emergency hack. I mean, he's got him set up for something off speed right now.
No, he doesn't.
No,
he's taking the fastball out of Avila's glove. You throw something off speed, it just speeds him up.
He's going to be on it. All right.
Well, you would hope. Well, we're going to find out. Here comes a changeup. See how right on time he was with that changeup. He took that changeup like it was a fastball. He doesn't talk to himself enough, though.
Got him. Above the belt at 94.
That can't be fun, but it didn't seem like a lot of fun with Anibal Sanchez either in this game. I mean, you watch his pitches right here. Yes, he missed location, but he missed on the inner half of the plate. And you see the pitches right here, down out of the strike zone with the off-speed pitch, the curveball away that he gets Victorino fly out to right field. He strikes out Napoli with it, and Jackie Bradley, that fastball running away from him. His location was as good as you can expect someone who's missed a few starts with a blister problem on his hand. And he came out unscathed, Dan.
And he turns it over to Ray here in the 6th. He strikes out Pierzynski, and now he starts Bogaerts with a strike.
The hardest pitch he threw was the one he threw to Don Kelly to get that double play.
Line sharply into left field, a base hit for Bogaerts, who's 2 for 3. The MLB Fan Cave is back. Check out all the latest cave happenings at MLBFanCave.com. Follow at MLB Fan Cave on Twitter and like the MLB Fan Cave on Facebook, as she does. MLB.TV Premium, the #1 live streaming sports service, celebrating 12 years. Watch every out-of-market game live in true HD on over 400 devices. Visit MLB.TV for details. 1 on, 1 out here on this Sunday night at Fenway. Brock Holt, the batter. There's the breaking ball, and it's fouled off 0-1. The Red Sox are off tomorrow. And then the Blue Jays come to town for a 3-game series. It marks the beginning of a stretch for Boston when they play 36 games in 37 days. After having had 4 off days in the last 2 weeks. Go figure.
Schedule makers are on top of this one, aren't they? Where can you people make out the schedule, look at that and say, yeah, this is good. We can do that. Oh, well. Got to play him. Got to play him. Go play.
The Dodgers seem to have every Monday and Thursday off in April. They were off constantly. Avila got nicked up again. Another foul ball.
Yeah, this one looks like it hits the top of his glove and just bends his hand back a little bit. Probably tweaks that wrist. And probably doesn't feel good on the hand either.
Good block.
Hey, it just makes you marvel at the great hitting catchers in baseball. Johnny Bench, Ivan Rodriguez, guys that just took a pounding like they do and could still hit 280, 300, drive in runs, hit home runs.
Marvel, a guy like Molina. I mean, what he's done, catching 140 games a year in the heat of St. Louis and turning into a great offensive catcher to go with being the game's best defensive catcher.
Remember Victorino stole on the 2-2 pitch last inning. Robbie Ray was thinking, okay, well, maybe they'll try to send Bogaerts on a 2-2 pitch.
High in the air down the left field line and twisting foul. He's a happy guy. Look at his buddy trying to share the glory with him. They hurt.
Foul balls and bats hurt.
Buster's down.
Only if they hit you.
Oh, yeah.
If they don't hit you, it doesn't hurt.
Here comes the 8th pitch of the at-bat. Well, Pierzynski battled, eventually struck out. Bogaerts singled. And now Holt putting up a fight as well.
But he's a starting pitcher. It's not like you're going to run him out of pitches and have to bring someone else in.
To first, backhanded Cabrera, low throw, but there to make the play is Roman, and they will force the lead runner. Cabrera did what he could at third base the 2 years that he was over there, but there was only so much he was going to be able to do. He certainly looks more comfortable back at first.
Yeah, and you'd like to think that maybe that'll help his offense, but I don't know how you can do that much more. But yeah, he is. Seems like he's better at first base.
Goes over to talk to Kinsler.
Cabrera's limping around a little bit out there talking to Ian Kinsler, but I don't see where he hurt himself on this throw.
Johnny Gomes was announced as a pinch hitter for the Red Sox, and Brad Ausmus will count over the pitching change, bringing in a right-hander, Evan Reed. 5-2 Tigers. Red Sox batting in the bottom of the 6th. So some changes for both teams as Johnny Gomes is going to come up. He'll face the right-hander Evan Reed, with the Tigers leading the Red Sox 5-2 in the bottom of the 6th inning. And on the fielder's choice, one more look at the play involving Miguel Cabrera.
I mean, he does everything right here. That might be what could have happened right there. It looked like he might have spiked himself, but it looked like it was his right foot that he hurt, and it was his right foot that looked like it spiked his left one. Either way, he's staying in the game, and probably hold him to a double next at bat.
Here's Evan Reed to face Johnny Gomes. And a fastball for a strike from Reed, who's making his 16th appearance of the season. 0-1 with an ERA of 2.87, has walked only 3 batters in 15 2/3. The Tiger bullpen got off to a difficult start this season, but collectively as a group they have been improving in recent weeks. Of course, they got a new closer this year, newcomer to Detroit, not new as a closer, but new in Detroit, Joe Nathan. Jabba Chamberlain right now is the primary setup man, the 8th inning guy.
Hey, Johnny, go sit here for 6 innings and go get some of this 97.
And then an 82-mile-an-hour breaking ball that Gomes felt was outside. Left-hander Phil Koch up in the Tiger pen right now, and you can see May has been a much better month for the relievers for the Tigers than April was. And really, when you start to look at this team and say, okay, where could the problems be? Early on, you said bullpen maybe. That's gotten a lot better. Runner goes. Pitch high, throw down, sails into center field, and Holt will take third. Stolen base E2.
Give the Red Sox credit. They're trying to force the issue offensively, and this is the risky move right here. With you put a pinch hitter in the game and you have 2 outs and you're stealing guys. Maybe give Johnny Gomes a new count the next at bat, but they are being aggressive. And that's the thing, when your offense is struggling, a lot of teams, they get more conservative with their offense. And looks like tonight John Farrell's turning the boys loose.
2-2 now, the count on Gomes. And at 97 up at the letters, Gomes strikes out to end the inning. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball presented by Taco Bell is brought to you by Dick's Sporting Goods. Visit dicks.com/sportsmatter and help the Dick's Sporting Goods Foundation save youth sports. And Wells Fargo. When people talk, great things happen. Back at Fenway, it is the Tigers 5 and the Red Sox 2. As we go to the top of the 7th inning. Top of the order for Detroit with some changes coming for the Boston Red Sox. Johnny Gomes will stay in the game in left field after pinch hitting for Jackie Bradley Jr. Gomes still a little bit steamed over that strikeout. So Grady Sizemore moves from left to center. And the new pitcher for the Red Sox is right-hander Junichi Tazawa. 1-0 with a 2.65 ERA as he makes his 19th appearance of the season. And all he has to do is face Kinsler, Hunter, Cabrera, and if anybody reaches, Victor Martinez.
Nothing to it.
Kinsler tonight is 3 for 3. That's 3 of the 11 hits that the Tigers have in this game, including a 2-run homer by Victor Martinez. Check swing bouncer left side. Holt got him. Torrey Hunter will come up. Miguel Cabrera will come out on deck. Coming off back-to-back American League MVP seasons. It's been done by Jimmy Fox. It's been done by Frank Thomas. It's been done by a trio of Yankees. Ibarra, Mantle, and Maris. And Hal Newhouser did it back in the 40s. Miguel Cabrera has done it the last 2 years. Only 7 American League players ever have won consecutive MVPs. Torrey Hunter with a blast to left field. No doubt about it.
Are we hearing a splattering of booze coming out of the Red Sox faithful? Well, that was that's a split finger. That was a hanger, and that's the one you can. He really likes to travel long distances, and he missed. Wow. He missed every car out there. That's some good aim.
5th home run of the season for Hunter, ups the lead to 6-2. And here's Cabrera. Cabrera doubled to right center in the 1st, had an RBI single in the 3rd, and a sac fly to right in the 5th. Not deep to center. Sizemore 2 down.
Here's the pitch to Torrey Hunter. It's a slider that just stayed center of the plate in, similar to some of the balls that Jake Peavy threw. Sliders that stayed, that didn't break down and away. And you think he knew he got it, Dan? And that's, you know, if you're the opposing team, you can't get mad at that
because he really got it.
Oh yeah, that one went over everything. Yeah. And when it goes over everything, you should be able to flip your bat, admire that work. If it hit the top of the wall and bounced over, there's some issues. But
here's Victor Martinez.
I think just by the sound that one made, we kind of figured that one wasn't staying in, unless the Green Monster grew.
He enjoyed that. He's just trying to find somebody to sit beside and talk to about that home run.
Well, Max will talk to him. There's Max.
Rajay Davis will congratulate him. Austin Jackson will congratulate him.
Think they know they're a good team?
They want to be a great team. They've been a really good team for 3 years. They have been close.
If they have a bullpen pitching like they are now,
yeah,
that is great.
Their rotation, as good as it's been in recent years, it feels like it's the best it's been this year. Scherzer's pitching as well as he did last year when he won the Cy Young. Verlander's pitching well. Porcello's taken his game to a completely new level. Maybe a play. Wow! Who gets the web gem? Can you share a web gem?
AJ dropped it. That ain't a web gem.
He doesn't get an assist. Brzezinski pops out of his glove. Holt barehands it. Routine. Nothing to it. Here's the greatest hitter of the game today, Miguel Cabrera. This ball is well struck. Deep right center field and gone. The Tigers come in having won 10 consecutive road games. They've got the best record in all of baseball. And they're up 6-2 on the Red Sox going to the bottom of the 7th. They have outscored Boston 13-3 in this 3-game series. The Red Sox have scored only 3 runs so far. A little Hartford Whaler love there on the left. A little Hartford Whalers cap on those Tiger fans. As Brad Ausmus goes to his bullpen again for right-hander Al Albuquerque. And in the grand scheme of things, you know, you get to October, and sometimes it's that 7th inning guy who might determine whether you win a game or lose a game. This guy's obviously got the arm. This could be a pretty important guy ultimately for the Tigers.
Yeah, you see the 21 walks and only, or 21 strikeouts and only 4 walks. That's a big thing too. When you come in late game situations, you're not putting guys on base, and he has again another power arm.
So Sanchez went 5. Ray 2/3 of an inning. Reed faced one batter, struck him out. And now Albuquerque facing the leadoff hitter for the Red Sox, Dustin Pedroia, here in the bottom of the 7th. And out in front 0-2. We'll see the Tigers again tomorrow night in Cleveland. Monday Night Baseball here on ESPN. Dodgers and Mets on a Wednesday, and we'll have the Cardinals and the Reds next Sunday night. And then it's Memorial Day already. A week from tomorrow, we got a game next Monday. We're going from Cincinnati to St. Louis, where the Cardinals host the Yankees. What are you giving me that face for? You're coming, aren't you?
I'll be there with you.
You'll be there, so
Absolutely.
what's that face for?
I didn't realize they were playing the Yankees.
You should come to the meetings more often.
What meetings?
Looks like we're going to, Mr. Pasquarelli tells us, looks like we'll see Adam Wainwright next Sunday night, and then maybe Michael Wacha on Monday.
And for the Yankees with
check swing, bouncer back to the mound, 1 down. Celebrate Sunday all season long with special ticket offers. Head to the ballpark with your friends and family. Go to MLB.com/Sunday. Follow every Major League Baseball game with MLB.com at bat for your mobile device. Get scores, stats, highlights, live audio, and more. Text at bat to 31826 or visit MLB.com for details. Now, apparently, the discussion here is that Dustin Pedroia is saying that the ball hit his bat twice and therefore should be a foul ball because he was still in the box, and he is correct.
Isn't that a 2-stroke penalty?
And now Brad Ausmus wants an explanation. Explanation provided.
But that's what's confusing, because the second time he hit it, the ball was actually in fair territory.
But he's in the box. He's in the batter's.
So if you hit a chopper off the plate,
then you can reach up and just
whack it again, and it's a foul ball. Huh. Something to look into.
You'd have had like 30 more hits in your career if you'd
No, I didn't. No. No. I wouldn't have been that smart to think about it.
And now Brad Ausmus needs a further explanation. I think Brad Ausmus is asking if this can be reviewed.
You know, the umpires are probably thinking, oh man, he's Ivy League educated. We might not win this one. Looks like what he's saying is that he still had the bat in the possession. It wasn't like he swung and the bat left his hand and hit the ball again. The bat was still in his possession. And he did hit it twice. And if the ruling stands that he gets to hit again, he's a very lucky man, because that's a fair ball. I don't think hitting the bat again misdirected the ball in any way. I think it was fair when it left his bat the first time, and basically fair when it left it the second time.
And I think we picked up a little bit on the audio there from Ausmus. Draws a crowd. Kinsler with a basket catch. So instead of a 1-3, it's a pop up to second. I think we heard Ausmus say there, it doesn't matter if the ball is fair or foul as long as he is still in the box.
Yeah.
The position of the ball is irrelevant. It's the position of the batter that matters.
Took an awful long time for one more pitch to end all conversation.
Now Victorino, 1 for 3. (6-2) Tigers. Boston batting in the bottom of the 7th. The Red Sox in jeopardy of dropping their 4th consecutive game. Haven't done that at any point this season. Didn't do it at any point all of last season either. They're already 2 games under 500. If they lose tonight, they drop to 3.5 back of the Yankees, who split a doubleheader with the Pirates today. Baltimore's in second, a game out. Toronto's in third, a game and a half out. And the Rays are last in the division right now, 5.5 out.
Who had that order going into the season? Yankees, Orioles, Blue Jays, Red Sox in 4th, and Tampa in last.
I think the Rays got a little more preseason love when you're doing predictions and so forth than anybody else.
Yeah.
But their pitching staff, of course, has been, like so many others, decimated by injuries this year. 2-2 on Victorino.
That's why you wonder how long the Yankees can hold this together without Pineda. Of course, Ivan Nova's going to be out for the rest of the year, of course. And CeCe's out for a couple weeks or a month maybe.
So as you look at the 5 teams, do you think it's going to be like this most of the season? Just a bunch of teams trying to break free from the 500 mark?
Yeah, and I don't think any one team has the firepower to break through and just run away with this division. I think all 5 teams are going to be in this thing for the long haul.
Kinsler again, 2 down. Right now the Yankees are leading the division, as we mentioned, at 23-19. Baltimore is in second right now. They've got an outstanding record of 1-run games. Remember, that was a huge key for them 2 years ago when they went to the postseason. The Blue Jays can really score when they're hot. When they're hot, they can really pound the baseball. Can they pitch well enough on a consistent basis to be a factor? And can Tampa Bay get healthy enough to be a factor?
All questions that'll answer themselves out over the next 4 months. But I like I said, I just think this division, it's going to go down to the last. You know, you heard people say there might be 2 wild cards coming out of the American League East. I don't think so. I would highly doubt it, the way this division is so equal.
And let me update the records. The scoreboard here at Fenway only had the first game of the Yankee Pirates doubleheader. So the Yankees are 23-20. So the Orioles are a half game out. And the Blue Jays are 1 game out. So you've got 3 teams within a single game right now atop the American League East. And will the rally caps work? What will ignite the Red Sox offense?
'96 comebacker. Good Lord.
We've seen 4 arms for the Tigers tonight, and all of them are plus arms.
Yes.
Sanchez, Ray, Reed, Albuquerque.
You know, poor Joe Nathan comes in throwing his 90-91 with a great slider. And probably licking your chops on the other dugout thinking that's easy.
And Kinsler is going to make all 3 plays in the inning. 7 complete here in Boston, with the Tigers leading the Red Sox 6-2. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball is presented by Taco Bell Breakfast. Wake up, live Moss. And in part by Golfsmith. At Golfsmith, we believe you deserve a store that would do anything for golfers. Find a location near you at golfsmith.com. Dan Schulman, John Kruk, Buster Olney, and our outstanding ESPN crew with you tonight here at Fenway Park, where the Tigers lead the Red Sox 6-2. Going to the top of the 8th inning, and the new pitcher for Boston is left-hander Andrew Miller. He hit a couple of rough spots earlier this week, but before that had been almost untouchable. At one point, had retired 23 out of 24 batters he had faced. A couple of walk-off defeats against the Minnesota Twins during the week. But a guy who's always had great stuff. Remember, as a young pitcher, was a starter. Took him a long time, Crucky, to kind of harness his mechanics. But, boy, if he can throw strikes, he can be a nightmare up there, especially if you're a left-handed batter.
Yeah, that was his issues early on in his career. He couldn't command any of his pitches. Was falling behind and
couldn't come up with it cleanly, and that should be an infield hit for Don Kelly. Let's go back to the last half inning. We have access to the audio between Brad Ausmus and home plate umpire Scott Berry on that play with Pedroia at the plate.
He's still in the box. If he hits the ball twice when he's still in the box, it's only a foul ball. There's no.
Even if the ball's in fair territory.
Even if the ball's in fair territory, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. If he's still in the box.
Well, can I protest this just in case you got it wrong?
Hold on a second. Come here, because I don't want you protesting. It's just judgment whether it's a foul ball or not.
So it's judgment whether the ball's foul or fair, and everybody's learning this at the same time. Can I protest this in case you guys got it wrong? And what Scott Berry did was he called over the crew chief, Jeff Nelson. So let's have a meeting. And it's not something that you can review. And as long as the batter is still in the batter's box, it doesn't matter if he hits it twice. It doesn't matter where the ball is. It's still a foul ball as long as the batter is in the box. You good with that?
Love it. But it didn't seem like they were very sure of that either. Because when he said, can I protest this in case you're wrong? Hold on, let me get the crew chief over here. Now, the crew chief, they could have been calling over to, because you have to tell maybe you have to tell the crew chief that you are protesting the game. I don't put anything past him. He's too smart.
Austin Jackson, the batter. But you know what you like? Ausmus came out calmly and said, okay, explain this to me.
Yeah.
And Scott Berry said, here's the explanation. And Ausmus said, can I protest it? And they call over the crew chief. Like it was handled very professionally and calmly by all three parties.
Yeah. It was very well done.
Let's go down to Buster Olney.
As we're talking about the way Brad Ausmus communicates with players, in his first meeting in spring training with the Detroit players, he actually sat in his seat in front of him instead of standing up over them. And that's kind of the way that Brad's talked to people. He doesn't, as we mentioned before, doesn't overwhelm them with language and 50-cent words. He pretty much speaks very directly to them. And as I said, he's very comfortable with himself. And it's interesting that he chose Gene Lamont, who he worked with the Houston Astros. A lot of new managers would come in and want a brand new bench coach. Well, Gene Lamont, of course, had worked for Jim Leland, and Brad was comfortable with him. He said, yeah, I definitely want to work with Gene.
Yeah, a lot of carryover from last year. To Ausmus's right there, your left is Jeff Jones, the pitching coach. So the holdovers is bench coach and pitching coach. Big assets for a first-time major league manager.
Yeah, they know the personnel. They know what makes them click. Gene Lamont's a very smart man.
Fouled back by J.D. Martinez.
Although he played me a lot, which could be why he's a bench coach now.
What was that, the last year of your career? Was that right at the end?
Yeah. It was awful.
Yeah.
Long story, I'll tell you one day, but yeah, it was not good.
Red Sox got a run in the bottom of the second on an RBI single by Xander Bogaerts. The Tigers back with 3 in the third. Miguel Cabrera with an RBI single. Victor Martinez with a 2-run homer. Torrey Hunter has also homered in this game. Cabrera added another RBI on a sac fly. And it's 6-2 Detroit, top 8. Miller gets him over the outside corner. Strike 3 call. Now Alex Avila. And look at the hits. Everybody but the number 9 hitter, Andrew Romine, has at least 1 hit tonight. The Tigers have 13 to just 6 for the Red Sox. Avila with an RBI single his last time up. You know, the funny thing, you look at the Tigers, and you know they've won the division the last 3 years. Last year they won it by 1 game over Cleveland. The year before they won it by 3 games over the White Sox. It actually feels like it's been a lot closer than it should have been. Although Cleveland had a great year last year. Detroit played poorly at the end of the season 2 years ago. It feels like a team poised to run away with the division. But
well, they have a bullpen this year. They have a bullpen that Brad Ausmus can trust to bring into games. And there was a lot of times last year you didn't seem like, and rightfully so, the last couple years, that Jim Leyland wanted to go to his bullpen as much as he, just because he didn't trust them. And he had every reason not to trust them because they weren't very good.
Now there's the 8-9 combo right now. Jabba Chamberlain on the left and Joe Nathan on the right. Let's go down to Buster.
So one thing that's made very clear in spring training by the Tiger holdovers from last year is that these guys are haunted by what happened in the American League Championship Series last year. They really felt like, for the most part, they played very well in that series against Boston, but for 3 pitches that really were the crossroads. A home run that David Ortiz hit off Joaquin Benoit, the home run by Mike Napoli, and the home run by Shane Victorino. Otherwise, in that series, the Tigers really felt like they dominated the Red Sox hitters.
There's got to be a ton of hunger inside that Tiger clubhouse right now, Cruppy.
Well, and to win 3 divisions in a row and not win a world championship, and I'm sure they feel like there's a window here because you don't know what's going to happen with Max Scherzer. Will he be a Tiger next year? And there has to be a sense of urgency on this team that this team could be. Some guys might not be here next year. They might not be as good.
Scherzer, Hunter, Martinez, all free agents potentially at the end of the season. So Brad Ausmus, how many first-time managers come in and inherit a club like this? Never. You never get a club like this. You're usually getting a team that's rebuilding or a team that's coming off a bad season. Two down in the inning. And here's Romine. Turns around to bat for the right side against the left-hander Miller. But Ausmus seemed to garner instant respect from his players, and with good reason, given what he accomplished over his career and the respect he had as a player. Bouncing ball to Pedroia to end the inning. So 2 men left on by the Tigers. We'll go to the bottom of the 8th. Detroit still leading 6-2. Bottom 8, Fenway Park. And a 6-2 lead for the Tigers, trying to sweep the Red Sox here at Fenway for the first time since 1983. ESPN's coverage of Major League Baseball continues tomorrow night. You'll see the Tigers again, this time from Cleveland as they take on the Indians. Monday Night Baseball presented by USAA. Wednesday night it'll be the Dodgers visiting the Mets. And a week from tonight we will be in Cincinnati as the Reds host the Cardinals. All games also available on Watch ESPN. Good times if you're a Tiger fan right now. 26-12, best record in baseball. Best record for the Tigers at this point of a season since their great year in 1984. And they're traveling.
Well, they should want to watch this team.
It'll be 3 weeks from tonight. We will be at Comerica Park, these same two teams, for a Sunday night game. The Red Sox back in Detroit. Here's Mike Napoli to lead off the 8th against Al Albuquerque. Left-hander Ian Kroll is up in the Tiger pen, and a couple of left-handed batters scheduled after Napoli for the Red Sox. Boy, that's a pretty good slider right there. Pretty sharp. A little bit higher maybe than he wanted it, but
yeah,
sharp break.
And he has 96 to back that one up.
Yep. Yes, he did, and he knew it. An impressive outing right there out for Albuquerque against Napoli, and Brad Ausmus is going to make the change. He'll go to the lefty. So 4 nice outs recorded by Albuquerque, and he'll turn it over to the left-hander Kroll here at Fenway in the 8th inning with the Tigers leading by 4. Back here at Fenway Park, Jake Peavy got the start, but the Tigers won a lot of the battles against Peavy. Cabrera doubled. He flared one into left for an RBI single. Victor Martinez with a 2-run homer, his 10th of the season. Torrey Hunter crushed one right over the monster and then out into the parking lot. And the Tigers are flexing their muscles here tonight, out hitting the Red Sox 13-6, leading 6-2, looking to sweep.
They quick attack you with the home run ball. They can draw out the pain as far as the opposing pitcher goes with some doubles and singles.
Here's Ian Kroll, the left-hander, the other player who came over along with Robbie Ray and the Doug Fister deal. And you can see the numbers that he's put up out of the bullpen this year. Hasn't walked a batter in 13 innings. And he'll face a couple of left-handed batters in Grady Sizemore and A.J. Pierzynski. It's all lining up pretty nicely if you're Brad Ausmus.
Yeah, and Brad Ausmus is giving the Red Sox a chance to try to get back in this thing. Every matchup he can get, righty-lefty or lefty-lefty, righty-righty, he's doing it.
And if it gets beyond Pierzynski, you might see Jabba Chamberlain. Pretty loose bunch right now. Winning will do that for you, huh?
Nothing to be tight about when you're that good.
At the knees, 1-2. That ball was down, said Grady Sizemore.
Yeah, he's doing it the right way, though. Head down and.
Yep. Said it politely. And the breaking ball hit on a couple of bounces out to Kinsler, 2 down. For the Tigers, one of their great years, in a year a lot of Tiger fans remember, 1984. Kirk Gibson and company. Remember, they won 35 of their first 40. Wound up winning 104 games on the season. And wound up as the World Series champions, defeating the San Diego Padres in 5. Willie Hernandez, the Cy Young Award winner and the MVP that year. 35-5. They won the American League East by 15 games that year.
Played with Willie. Aurelio Lopez was a setup man. I played with Senor Smoke and Winterball. Good people.
Now Jack Morris leading the pitching staff. Trammell and Whitaker up the middle. That could be our weekly Cousin Kruk, that Tiger fan we just saw.
They're everywhere.
Not that guy. That guy.
Yeah. Liking the look.
And Brad Ausmus is liking the work out of the bullpen. Kroll gets the 2 batters he came in to face. So we'll go to the top of the 9th, and that means another look at Miguel Cabrera when we come back. Back at Fenway Park in Boston, things have not gone very well for the Red Sox all weekend. They're in danger of getting swept. Lost 1-0 Friday night, lost 6-1 last night, and down 6-2 here tonight to the Tigers, who are looking very much like the best team in baseball right now. They're 26-12, best record in baseball, and 3 outs away from their 11th consecutive road win. They'll try to add to their totals here in the top of the 9th against a new pitcher. Right-hander Burke Badenhop is into the game for Boston, a guy who's been on a real run for the Red Sox, has not given up a run in his last 16 innings of work. Top of the order, Kinsler, Hunter, Cabrera.
13 strikeouts, 8 walks. It's not a very good ratio, is it?
This trio of Tiger hitters, they've had some kind of a night. They're a combined 7 for 11. Kinsler, Hunter, and Cabrera.
Yeah, Victor scuffing along with 1 for 4 with a homer.
8 for 12. A 4-hit night for Kinsler, 4 for 5. What a different looking team with him in the field at the top of the order. Jackson moving down in the order. Rajay Davis acquired with his speed. He's not in the lineup tonight, but boy, it's got a different look to it offensively than it has the last couple of years.
Yeah, the last few years they've had to beat you with power, and now they can beat you with speed and power. And that's the thing, they added power or speed with Kinsler and Rajay Davis, but Kinsler's a guy that can take you out of the ballpark too. It's not like he's just a slap happy singles hitter.
Here's Hunter, who hit one a mile his last time up.
He can too, then, can he?
Let's go down to Buster.
The Tigers lineup has a different look, and so does Ian Kinsler, who dropped about 10 pounds in the offseason. He told me that typically kept more weight on when he played for the Rangers because he assumed that during the course of playing in the heat during the summer that he might need to lose weight. But this year he came in, lighter. He said he feels a lot better. When I walked up to him, I said, "Hey, you enjoying it?" He said, "What's not to like?" He's loving playing with the Tigers.
Well, he has hit as many as 32 homers in a season. He has stolen as many as 31 bases in a season.
So he can hit homers.
He can hurt you in multiple ways.
Yeah. Well, I think the fear of every team in the American League was what would happen if the Tigers got more athletic and kept the power, got more athletic, and got a bullpen. 2014 is what's going to happen. You're seeing it.
And if Scherzer had as good a year, and Verlander had a really good year, and Porcello, he's having a great year right now.
Great year.
7-1. There's Scherzer, the reigning Cy Young Award winner. Off to a better start this year than he was at this point last year, and he went on to win the Cy Young. And as was much discussed a few weeks ago, reportedly turned down a 6-year, $144 million contract offer from the Tigers, and it looks like he'll become a free agent at the end of the season.
I mean, haven't we all?
2-2 on Hunter.
I mean, you probably turned that down, didn't you?
If somebody offered you 6 years and $144 million, that'd be the last I ever hear from you. Never see you again. Never. You'd be gone so fast.
I'd come see you during basketball season. I'd fly my plane in.
Yes, you would.
Pick up you and Dickie V.
Yeah. Full count.
Take it from Chapel Hill to Durham, 6 miles away.
8 miles. Yeah.
8?
8 miles.
Yeah, but on a plane though.
Yeah.
Seems like 6.
Yep. You know what? You'd even get us a game back in West Virginia. If you'd fly us there, we'd do a game in West Virginia.
You don't like flying into Morgantown?
I love flying into Morgantown. I love doing games in West Virginia. Done a lot of games in West Virginia. It's fun.
It's a great place.
It is a great place.
Rowdy people.
Yes,
aren't they?
yes they are. Runner going, ground ball to the left side. Long throw to first to get Hunter. Kinsler made a turn, thought about going to third, but stood his ground. Down to Buster again.
Guys, there was an interesting sight early this afternoon, hours before the game. Max Scherzer was working out in the bullpen. He threw his regular bullpen session. Of course, he's a guy who loves a lot of different sports, including football. He was running patterns against teammates at one point, 2-on-2. And I got to say, there are probably a lot of people who would look at that and say, wait a second, you turned down how much money, and you're a free agent in the fall, and you're running football patterns, but that's how much confidence Max Scherzer has.
And the guy likes to have a good time, too, as you can see. as does the guy at the plate. Miguel Cabrera, who tonight has doubled, had an RBI single, had a sacrifice fly, and then hit a fly ball to center. You know, we talked about Andrew Miller and his mechanics. It took Max Scherzer a long time to really too bad they're not having any fun. It took Max Scherzer a long time to really get his mechanics ironed out and let the raw ability, the raw stuff take over. But man has it the last couple of years.
Yeah, once he figured a way to command the strike zone with every pitch, he'd become, well, one of the best pitchers in baseball. Yeah, they might be joking with Torrey about how old he is and how can you not beat out a ground ball to shallow left field with when the third baseman dove for it. I'm sure there's some ribbing going on. Of course, all he had to do is say, check out my last at bat, or prior at bat before that one, and see where that one ended up.
Troy Hunter's probably telling Austin Jackson, you'll be me one day. They'll be getting on your case one day. 2-1 on Cabrera.
You could hope everyone played that long and had as much fun.
Chop foul, 2-2.
Well, here's his 2 hits in this one tonight. The ringing double to right center field. And then he gets a pitch in off the plate. So he goes away for a double, off the plate, in, off the plate for an RBI single that he got jammed on. And blooped one in, but isn't that what great hitters do? And that's what's the danger of trying to figure out a way to get this guy out.
And he's got his 3rd hit of the game. Kinsler's going to be held at 3rd on a line drive single by Miguel Cabrera.
You see another pitch up in the strike zone, out over the plate, and you know if you're Badenhop right here, you're probably thankful that he went the other way with it. That ball could have gone in the seats on any part of this stadium.
He's as good an example as anybody that you don't have to pull the ball to do a lot of damage.
No.
The best hitter in the game uses the opposite field probably about as much as any power hitter in baseball today. And here's Victor Martinez, 1 for 4, but the one was a 2-run homer back in the 3rd. And a pop-up for Bogaerts. 2 down. And John Farrell's going to make a pitching change. He's already signaled to the pen, got a left-hander up, and he'll bring him in to face Don Kelly when we come back. Tigers up 6-2 as they bat here in the top of the 9th. NBA here on ESPN, beginning with Kia NBA Countdown at 7 Eastern, previewing Game 2 of the Eastern Conference Finals. The NBA Lottery at 8 Eastern, and then it is Game 2 with the Pacers taking on the Heat. The Pacers defeating Miami in Game 1 of the Eastern Conference Finals earlier today. That all comes your way Tuesday on ESPN and also live on Watch ESPN. Coming up next on SportsCenter, a look back at that Game 1 win for Indiana. Yasiel Puig's 16-game hitting streak on the line today. And a big day for Albert Pujols as the Angels win again. Don Kelly will face Craig Breslow with 2 on, 2 out, and the Tigers leading 6-2 here in the top of the 9th inning.
Who you got? Heat, Pacers? Who you got?
Heat.
I knew I didn't like you.
You didn't ask me who I wanted to win. You asked me who I thought was going to win. OKC San Antonio. Who you got?
Ooh, that's a tough one.
That's a good series.
Boy, San Antonio just so fundamentally sound. But Kevin Durant,
he's pretty good.
Oh, and Westbrook. They can't. I don't. You know, Tony Parker with that hamstring. You don't know if he'll be able to stick with Westbrook.
Say that lottery on Tuesday. A lot of eyes are going to be on that with Jabari Parker and Andrew Wiggins, Julius Randle, Joel Embiid. So many talented players in the draft this year. Kelly 1 for 4, had an infield hit his last time up. Breslow, the 5th pitcher of the night for the Red Sox. Jake Peavy went 6 innings, gave up 5 runs, all earned on 11 hits. He stands to take the loss tonight. Anibal Sanchez, in his return from the DL, got through 5. He was on a pitch count, got through 5, and he could pick up the win. He will pick up the win if the Tigers can hold off the Red Sox in the bottom of the 9th. Tigers in Cleveland tomorrow night on ESPN. Red Sox off tomorrow, home to the Blue Jays Tuesday night here at Fenway. Kids are sleeping. Got to stick it out.
And I'm thinking this might be the only game they're coming to this year. Although both managers are managing like this is still a close game. It's a Wally hat, isn't it?
It's a Wally the Green Monster.
Yeah. Red Sox phone cover.
She's all in. Not happy, but she's all in.
Not happy, but she's invested.
He's not happy, but he's invested.
Yeah.
Way inside and a full count now on Kelly. And looking ahead to the bottom of the 9th, scheduled for the Red Sox, Xander Bogaerts, Brock Holt, and Johnny Gomes, 7, 8, and 9. Phil Cope, the left-hander, and Jabba Chamberlain, the right-hander, up in the Tiger pen. And Kelly draws the walk to load the bases for Austin Jackson. Tigers continue to flourish and the Red Sox continue to flounder offensively. Boston has scored only 3 runs in the series, and they've only got 1 more hit in the series than the Tigers have tonight.
That could change. Remember the Victor Martinez strikeout to home run ratio.
You're lobbing another prediction out there? Yeah. Austin Jackson, the batter, 1 for 3 with a walk. The one was a double. Kinsler, Cabrera, and Kelly aboard. Foul ball.
Almost. We almost tied that thing up. Look at the little Sparky.
It was worth sticking around.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, your odds increase of getting the ball with less people here.
Hung a change up there and it got fouled back. Little high, 2 balls and 2 strikes. Kuzinski did a little work on it after he caught it, but couldn't get the call.
He's happy back there. Just a ray of sunshine.
There's strike 3 called and the inning is over. To the bottom of the 9th at Fenway, the Red Sox coming up down 6-2. We go to the bottom of the 9th inning. Sunday Night Baseball here on ESPN. It's a 6-2 lead for the Tigers over the Red Sox. Tigers are that close to sweeping the Red Sox here in Fenway for the first time since 1983. Jabba Chamberlain is into the game for Detroit. Chamberlain making his 19th appearance of the season, 1-2 with an ERA of 3.78. He has struck out 23 batters in 16 2/3.
Brad Ausmus told us before the game that they were waiting for someone to emerge as the 8th inning guy in this Tigers bullpen. And he said it looks like Jabba has taken that job.
Season-ending injury to Bruce Rondon, who looked like he would have that job. Xander Bogaerts takes a strike. Joe Nathan's up just in case. Left center field. And plenty of room for Jackson, one down. Well, Crucky, you've watched the Tigers over the last 2 or 3 days. What do you take away from this weekend?
Well, I take away that they're the best team I've seen this year as far as power, speed, hitting with runners in scoring position, and their pitching. I don't know if any team can match their 5 starters if you go 5 deep. And you know, Brad Ausmus, of course, has done a great job. And I think the best thing he's done is he's kept most of the staff that Jim Leyland had together, who are familiar with these guys. And they're, you know, I don't see why they aren't the favorites to get to the World Series. Sure, Oakland's going to have something to say about that.
Batter's Brock Holt. And what you take away from the Red Sox?
They're still in it. Even as poorly as they've been playing, they're still in it, and that's, you know, that's something that if you're the Red Sox, you have to look at it and say, okay, you know, this has to be as bad as it can get, and it has to be as bad as it can get. It can't get any worse than this if you want to stay in this race. But you know, they know they're better than what they are. They know that they're capable of more things than what they've shown. They just have to do it. But they are a completely different team. You know, last year when we would come in and do a game, we'd talk to John Farrell, and there'd be hordes of players in the clubhouse talking and, you know, talking baseball and whatever. And today we went in, there was no one there. Oh, he can field too.
How about Cabrera? And in time at first for out number 2.
But today when we were in there to talk to John Farrell, I didn't see one player. And when we came out, I didn't see a player. And it was,
this organization, probably more than any other in baseball, the ups and downs, the changes from year to year, the difficult end at the end of the 2011 season, 2012 went poorly from start to finish. 2013, not much was expected. They win the World Series. 2014, obviously they come in with big expectations. They've been scuffling for 6-7 weeks now. Most of the personnel this year is the same personnel as last year.
And that could be, you know, that could be the problem. Is, you know, of course you lost Jacoby Ellsbury, huge loss that they haven't been able to replace, not only in the outfield but on, well, Jackie Bradley's a good center fielder, but offensively that's top of their order. But sometimes those same players who help you win a world championship are the reasons why you might not get back to that world championship. Guys had career years. Daniel Nava, you know, the platoon situation in left field was, you know, the most productive left field in baseball, really. And this year it's not. And they're not getting anything out of center field production-wise. So now you're looking at, you know, 2/3 you're out. Shane Victorino's been hurt. So basically your outfield hasn't really done anything for you just yet to help you, you know, to think that, you know, we can turn this thing around.
Two and two on Gomes. Miguel Cabrera with another big night for the Tigers. 3 hits, 2 RBIs. Torrey Hunter's homered. Victor Martinez is homered. Ian Kinsler had 4 hits. And the Tigers are on a real roll right now. High and deep to center, but not deep enough. And that'll be the ball game as the Tigers come into Fenway Park and they sweep the Boston Red Sox, holding the Red Sox to just 3 runs in 3 games. Major League Baseball coverage continues tomorrow night here on ESPN. The Tigers again, they'll be in Cleveland. Next tonight is Sports Center here on ESPN. This has been a presentation of ESPN, the worldwide leader in sports. For John Kruk, Buster Olney, and our crew, I'm Dan Schulman saying so long from Boston.